Chapter 545. The fragment of the realm core was right in front of them, but unfortunately, none of them were able to break free from the binding of the black tree branch. Who would have thought that even Tobias would be captured here? Merlin sighed with emotion as he looked at the burly man with a buzz cut. Tobias was the leader of the Blood Tribe Return to Void stage team. He was extremely powerful, and he was at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. Let's give him a taste of being purified once we get out of here, Cassidy suggested. These words made Lin feel very gratified. Then I'll leave it to you. Don't worry, Master. Leave it to me. Cassidy smiled sweetly. Nice. The opportunity to obtain 5 milliliters of divine blood was in his hands. Merlin finally came to his senses, and a remorseful expression appeared on his face. He had missed a golden opportunity. He could only turn his attention to the other 2 powerful beings. After all, killing a Return to Void stage mighty figure and handing over 5 milliliters of holy blood was also a reward. Return to Void stage mighty figures were already considered the most powerful beings on the entire Tai Chu continent. This circle of mighty figures was very small, and there were only a few of them here and there, so Merlin recognized these 2. Miya, a Return to Void intermediate stage mighty figure of the West Sea Spirit Fish Clan, and the South Priestess of the West Sea Ancient Monsters. Qin Sheng was a Light Wing Clan mighty figure from the Garden of Eden. He was at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage, and was most likely the team leader of the Return to Void stage team. It seemed like he couldn't beat either of them. Merlin analyzed the situation for a long time before feeling a sense of dejection. Our priority now is to break free from this strange black branch. Do you have any ideas? Asked Lin. Cassidy and Merlin furrowed their brows and fell silent. Shui Zhantian was a man of action, and he immediately opened his mouth to reveal a pair of sharp canine teeth before biting down on the black branch around his body. However, the branch was extremely tough. No matter how he bit, he couldn't break it. I didn't expect you to be awake already. A voice suddenly rang out, scaring everyone. In the next moment, a short and fat old man in red suddenly appeared in front of everyone like a ghost. Lin's expression changed drastically. There was only one thought left in his mind. I've been caught red-handed. I'm done for. The chubby old man did not seem surprised to see Lin and the others waking up. However, there was a curious look on his face. Why did you wake up? Can't that world make you happy? I can't. The master of that world doesn't have any scent to his holy blood, Cassidy replied seriously. I agree. I took a big gulp. Bah. What the F***ck? Merlin was disdainful. The corner of the chubby old man's mouth twitched. What kind of answer was that? Why did he feel like he couldn't understand it? Lin, the short and fat old man in red, came back to his senses and coughed lightly. Even if you are awake, there is no need to struggle. This dark world vine can seal your powers. You can't break free. What exactly do you want? Lin asked in a deep voice. There's no harm in telling you. After all, you are also participants in this plan. The short and fat old man in red looked at them, his eyes filled with vigor as he said, Our plan is to use the fragment of the realm core to rebuild this world and revive Qi Lu City. Revive? Lin was a little perplexed by this. That's right, revive. Bring all the living beings on this land back to life. Bring Qi Lu City back to its former glory. The short and fat old man smiled. Don't joke around. Opening up a world is understandable, but resurrecting living beings is something that's impossible. Cassidy was speechless as she looked at the short and fat old man as if he were a lunatic. The short and fat old man was not enraged by this. Instead, he offered a slow explanation. What if the living beings on this land aren't completely dead? Not completely dead. Merlin's brows furrowed. What do you mean by that? Those wandering souls. The short and fat old man pointed at the ancient city outside the pagoda and said, Those wandering souls have been wandering there for countless years. They have always existed there and never died. They were killed by heaven and earth, but they have nowhere to go. Using the fragment of the realm core to turn illusions into reality can create a new world. In order to revive these wandering souls and grant them life, some mighty life forms must sacrifice themselves. He turned toward Enlin and the others as a sinister smile appeared on his face. Enlin's blood ran cold at the sight of this sinister expression. Cassidy and Merlin's expressions were also quite grim. They knew that they were most likely going to die here. Death is also the beginning of a new life. Don't worry. Another voice sounded. Immediately afterward, a tall and thin old man in a red robe appeared before them. All of you shall live in Chi Lu City with new lives and become the gods of Chi Lu City. He raised his hands high into the air as he looked at Enlin and the others. 9 pioneers have already paved the way for you. You are the last batch, and Chi Lu City will reappear today. His voice had only just fallen when a scintillating light suddenly erupted from the fragment of the realm core. Boom! A series of crimson-veined patterns suddenly appeared at the base of the black pagoda. These veined patterns continued to expand outward until they encompassed the entire Chi Lu City while glowing with a peculiar light. A pillar of white light erupted into the sky from the base of the pagoda, as if it were going to pierce through the heavens. A peculiar ripple proliferated outward from the tip of the pagoda, resonating with heaven and earth. The white light illuminated the entire world, and the boundless light was pregnant with infinite possibilities. Meanwhile, over 500 kilometers away. The light over there is so bright. There must be a super powerful treasure about to be born. A young woman in a pink dress pointed at the white sky in the distance with an excited expression. A handsome male sword immortal with a vast and otherworldly aura looked into the distance with a grave expression, but he still tore open a spatial rift. Lu Chuchu, you have to stay behind me. Don't go on your own. No problem, Senior Lu Dongbin, I'll be a good girl. Lu Chuchu grabbed onto Xue Mengmeng and followed the male sword immortal into the spatial rift with an excited expression. Elsewhere, 2 silver-haired snow maidens in white robes suddenly looked into the distance, and their expressions shifted at the same time. One of the snow maidens had an ice puppet in her hand, and it was pointing toward the direction of the faint white light as it squeaked incessantly. It's the fragment of the realm core. We've finally found it. A holy palace leader was both elated and anxious. Let's hurry over there. We can't let anyone else get to it first. Aren't we going to wait for Rogu? We've already arranged to meet here, and she's already on her way here. The emergence of the realm core has created such a massive commotion that it'll definitely attract a lot of attention. With our current strength, it's very likely that we'll be wounded if we get there too early and encounter some extremely powerful enemy mighty figures. The tall and slender snow maiden was a little hesitant. There's no time to waste. The snow maiden with the ice puppet in her hand stepped into the spatial rift and rushed into the distance. The tall and slender snow maiden shook her head and heaved a forlorn sigh before tearing open the spatial rift and following along. Chapter 546. The fragment of the realm core unleashed its true power, and a pillar of white light soared into the sky under the guidance of the 2 red-robed elderly men. An invisible energy burst forth for several hundred kilometers, enshrouding the entire Chi Lu City and the surrounding continent. Enlin discovered that the black tree branches around his body were beginning to squirm and emanate a sinister red light. He looked around with a hint of despair in his eyes, only to find that there was nothing he could do. Was he really going to be trapped in Chi Lu City forever? He didn't want to accept this. LV Cheng, we have more guests, the stocky elderly man suddenly said. The tall and thin elderly man nodded. I'll go capture them and use them as fertilizer. His body disappeared from the tower as he spoke. Enlin and the others' expressions shifted slightly upon hearing this, and a glimmer of hope welled up in their hearts. In the air above Qi Lu City, LV Dongbin tore open a spatial rift and emerged with Lu Chuchu in tow. He looked at the black tower in the distance, and his expression shifted drastically as he swept his divine sense toward it. There are so many Return to Void stage powerful beings imprisoned here. Even Enlin is there. Lu Chuchu's heart jolted with shock. Even Enlin is there? Let's go and save him. I'll go and save him as a member of the Celestial Court, regardless of whether it's to repay Xiao Tu's favor or to save him. However, our enemies are not to be underestimated, so you have to get as far away from here as possible. LV Dongbin spoke with a serious expression. Lu Chuchu nodded upon hearing this, and she was just about to retreat when a tall and thin elderly man in a red robe suddenly appeared before them. Seeing as you're already here, why don't you join us in our grand plan? Let's go. LV Dongbin suddenly drew his longsword, and a peerlessly sharp white sword projection pierced through heaven and earth before hurtling directly toward the tall and thin elderly man. The tall and thin elderly man didn't take evasive measures. Instead, he threw a punch toward the oncoming sword projection. The boundless fist projection instantly shattered the white sword projection before crashing into Lu Dongbin's body. Terrifying shockwaves transformed into gale force winds, and even Lu Chuchu, who was standing nearby, was knocked flying. Lu Chuchu was more than happy to borrow this force to retreat with Xue Mengmeng. At the same time, a golden light flashed through her eyes as she focused her gaze on the summit of the Black Tower. Eye technique see-through. There were runes circulating in her yellow pupils. The Black Tower became transparent, and the scene inside became clear. Then, she discovered that Enlin and the others were entangled by the black branches and could no longer move freely. There's another person? Lu Chuchu's brows furrowed, and she decided not to alert the enemy for now. Lu Dongbin coughed up a mouthful of blood and retreated. He had already used his full strength and hadn't underestimated the red-clothed elder's power. However, he had still been injured by that one move. The power of that punch had already surpassed the power of a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. However, he could not sense the aura of the old man in red at all. It was as if the old man in front of him was a ghost without any sense of existence. It was also at this moment that the cracks on Qi Lu City opened up again. Two silver-haired snow maidens walked out and swept their divine sense around them before their eyes lit up. Good chance Su Jingxiang, a powerful being from the human race, is holding off one of the enemies. Let's hurry and fight for the fragment of the realm core. A snow maiden holding an ice soul snowman spoke with excitement in her voice. Oh? Is the fragment of the realm core really that easy to obtain? An unhurried voice suddenly sounded. In the next instant, a stocky red-clothed elder appeared before the two snow maidens with a smile on his face. Yan Hua, you go. I'll hold him off. Su Jingxiang flipped a hand over, and a white vortex of ice materialized in her palm. Yan Hua reacted immediately upon hearing this, and she flew toward the top of the Black Tower. Su Jingxiang also tossed the white vortex of ice toward the stocky old man at this moment. The white vortex of ice instantly expanded to over 1 kilometer in size, and boundless frost power began to erode the space around it in a frenzy as a burst of freezing and destructive power swept toward the old man. The stocky old man had already pulled out his guqin at this moment. Illusionary sound of the world expends too much energy. Looks like I'll have to use killing sound. But it's going to be tough on you, little girl. His hands quickly danced over the strings of the guqin as he spoke, and a burst of rapid sound erupted. The space within a radius of 5 kilometers suddenly began to congeal, and the sound waves transformed into countless swords and sabers that tore through the air, tearing the white vortex of ice into specks of white light before flying toward the two snow maidens. Yan Hua had only just unleashed a spell technique to break open the congealed space when countless extremely sharp soundwave sabers and swords hurtled toward her. Meanwhile, Su Jingxiang, who had promised to hold off the stocky old man, was also beginning to struggle to protect herself. 15 kilometers away from the Black Tower, Lu Chuchu drew her pink longbow. A crimson energy arrow had already materialized, and the terrifying temperatures emanating from the arrow made the space around it warp and warp. Divine technique. Exploding flame arrow. Whoosh! The arrow left the bow before flying through the air like a shooting star. The target of the exploding flame arrow was none other than the black tree branches on the ground of the tower. The two red-robed elders had both been held off, and now was the time to rescue Enlin. Lu Dongbin had materialized his lotus sword formation, and he was ecstatic upon seeing the crimson arrow, and he exerted even more force to hold off the tall and thin old man. Boom! The exploding flame arrow suddenly seemed to have struck something when it was only about 10 feet away from the tower, and it abruptly stopped in midair. The space around the black tower began to ripple, and the tip of the arrow was as crimson as blood. A sharp screeching sound erupted forth before it finally exploded with a resounding boom, transforming the entire sky into a sea of flames. The sea of flames crashed into the black tower, only to be separated by a transparent barrier, thereby preventing the tower from being damaged in the slightest. Don't waste your energy. Do you really think the two of us won't set up any defenses around the tower? We're not that stupid, the tall and thin old man said in a calm voice as he continued to attack. His attacks became more and more violent, and each and every one of his punches was imbued with boundless power, as if a mountain were crashing down upon them. Lu Dongbin stumbled back in retreat, and he was on the brink of defeat. He didn't think that there would be a defensive formation here. Was there really no other way? Lu Chuchu pursed her lips and drew her bow again. Within the Black Tower, Enlin and the others could do nothing but wait for the ceremony to begin. A black tree branch had already transformed into a sharp, tubular mouthpart, which wriggled rhythmically toward their hearts. Shui Zhantian's heart wasn't very obvious, so the tree branch was aimed at their mouths. Shui Zhantian was on the brink of tears, and he considered committing suicide by biting off his tongue. Right at this moment, Enlin suddenly felt like his pocket was a little bloated. No, it was extremely bloated. Holy F***ck. What the hell is this? Enlin felt as if there was a massive object poking into his waist. Then, he discovered that his waist suddenly emitted a bright white light. Then, there was a series of cracking sounds. Enlin suddenly thought of something. Tina. Chapter 547. Enlin recalled that he had a pocket on his waist. There was a silver ball in the pocket, and there was a little fairy within the silver ball. He didn't receive any response after calling out Tina's name, but the sound of something cracking did not stop. It was quite clear that something extraordinary was about to happen. Bam! The clothes on the side of Enlin's waist exploded into pieces. This was indeed an extraordinary event. Everyone turned to look at Enlin's waist with astonishment etched on their faces. There, a silver ball was hovering in midair, emanating a dazzling light. What's that? Merlin's eyes widened. Master laid an egg. Did he realize that he was going to die, so he chose to extend his life through this method? Cassidy was astonished. Humans are mammals, not oviparous animals. Thank you. Enlin gave Cassidy an earnest explanation. With another crisp, shattering sound, the silver sphere finally turned into fragments and fell to the ground. An extremely exquisite and beautiful figure appeared in front of everyone. She wore a white dress, and her skin was translucent and translucent. Her semi-transparent golden wings glowed with specks of starlight, and her emerald eyes were as translucent as gems. She had a sharp nose and ears, pink lips, and a curvaceous figure. Every single part of her body was impeccably perfect. Cassidy and Merlin were both rooted to the spot. Even Enlin was dumbstruck. Enlin was dumbstruck. He had seen Tina before, but he had never seen such a big Tina. Tina was close to 20 centimeters tall, which was close to 10 times her original size, which meant that she couldn't fit in the palm of his hand. Is that Master's daughter? She's so beautiful! Merlin exclaimed. She must be the daughter of a fairy goddess. Master's genes aren't strong enough to give birth to such a perfect fairy, so her mother must be extremely beautiful, Cassidy analyzed with a serious expression. And Lin was struck by the urge to beat someone up upon hearing this. Tina stared blankly at Lin with her emerald eyes. Huh? Giant Lin, why have you become smaller? Lin. Silly boy, it's not that I've become smaller, it's that you've become bigger. Creatures usually needed a reference to distinguish their sizes. Tina surveyed her surroundings before settling her gaze on Shuizhantian. When she looked at Shuizhantian in the past, she felt that he was like a gigantic snowball. Now, however, Shuizhantian was about the same height as him. Tina was in disbelief. I really did grow up? Giant Lin, you really didn't lie to me. Time really can make us grow up. A vibrant smile appeared on Tina's face as she flew toward Lin and gave him a big hug. This time, it was no longer a mosquito-like hug. Tina wrapped her fair and slender arms around Lin's neck, and her little head bumped into something that was a little hard. Lin coughed as his Adam's apple throbbed. Ahem. I'm such an honest person, why would I lie to little Na? By the way, why did your dress grow up as well? He asked in a gentle voice. I don't know. By the way, Giant Lin, you told me that you'd return the things that you kept for me when I grew up. Can I take them now? Tina relaxed her arms and rubbed her forehead with a wide grin. No, you'll only be considered grown up when you're as big as me, Lin replied in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. Tina nodded with a confused expression. Oh, just as the two of them were conversing with one another, the black tree branch suddenly stabbed toward Lin's heart. A streak of white light imbued with boundless holy energy instantly flashed through the air, pulverizing the oncoming black tree branch into dust. A series of black cracks exuded a chaotic aura as the white light flashed through the air. Tina withdrew her palm as a cold expression appeared on her face. Don't even think about hurting Giant Lin as long as I'm here. The 3 humans and 1 beast all drew a sharp intake of breath upon seeing this. Shock, joy, hope. Countless emotions intertwined to form a single word. So cool. Tina, you've already progressed to the return to void stage? Lin was ecstatic. I feel like my cultivation base is indeed higher than before, but what should I call the cultivation base above the holy rank? A thoughtful expression appeared on Tina's face. Great sage. Sky-shattering great sage. Shuizhantian's eyes lit up as he yelled. Lin. So what kind of vendetta do you have against the heavens? He thought to himself for a moment before replying, we can call you whatever cultivation base we want. Isn't it just a title anyway? Take me for example, all soul formation stage cultivators have their own domains, but I don't have anything, but I'm still called the soul formation stage. Hence, you're a return to void stage mighty figure from now on, understand? Tina blinked her emerald eyes. Is that so? Cassidy and Merlin were also astonished. Is that so? Whoosh! A black tree branch opened its sharp proboscis and stabbed toward Shuizhantian's mouth. Tina didn't even look at it as she thrust a hand through the air, upon which a white streak of light sliced through the air like a sharp sword, instantly pulverizing the tree branch. Lin came to his senses before speaking in an urgent voice. Let's not talk for now. Our top priority is to get us out of here. All right. Tina nodded with a smile. Outside the black tower, the crimson-veined patterns had already been constructed. The canopy in the sky began to peel away, and the countless stars in the sky began to fade as an independent space slowly took shape. The 2 snow maidens' blue robes were already stained with blood, and a series of ghastly wounds had appeared on their pristine, white skin. The spatial structure of this world has been constructed, and now is the time for the life conversion ceremony. I don't have any time to waste with you. The stocky old man pressed his hands onto the strings of his guqin, and his aura became as vast as the ocean as an extremely terrifying aura began to proliferate forth. Su Jingxiang and Yan Hua both wore expressions of despair on their faces. The disparity in power was simply too vast. If it weren't for the fact that they had unleashed all of their trump cards to defend themselves, they would have already died here. However, even after unleashing all of their trump cards, they still weren't able to escape from this place. All they could do was delay their deaths. Another sharp piercing sound was heard as a pink energy arrow drew a dazzling trail in the dark night. With an extremely terrifying speed, it hit the barrier of the Black Tower. Boom! The energy arrow was kept at bay by the tip of the Black Tower, and the dazzling energy exploded before dissipating into nothingness. Lu Chuchu gritted her teeth, and was just about to slit open her wrist to unleash a mystic technique to sacrifice her blood to the arrow when her sharp yellow eyes suddenly faltered upon seeing the Black Tower. An expression of astonishment appeared on her face. Tina pulverized all of the black tree branches from Enlin and the others before turning to look at the white shards before her with a curious expression. Giant Enlin, what is this? It looks so beautiful. She extended a hand toward the shard in an attempt to grasp it in her hand. Little Na, don't touch that thing. There's some kind of ceremony going on right now, so it's very dangerous. Enlin yelled. Tina's hand faltered in fright, and she was only an inch away from the shard of the realm core. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Touching something like this could trigger a backlash from the spell formation, and if that were to happen, she could even become a sacrificial offering. However, right at this moment, the shard of the realm core suddenly began to tremor. Whoosh! The white shard abruptly flashed before crashing into Tina's body. Everything had happened far too abruptly, and no one had a chance to react. Tina was struck by the shard of the realm core, and the shard melted into her body as she fell to the ground amid a pained groan. The projection of the mighty holy fairy leader suddenly appeared in her green eyes, and she seemed to be chanting something in a low voice. At the same time, a dazzling white light erupted from Tina's body. Little Na. Enlin let loose a cry of surprise upon seeing this as he rushed over to Tina and cradled her in his arms. Chapter 548. Little Na, are you all right? Enlin asked in a panicked voice. Tina didn't reply. Her chest rose and fell as she panted heavily with a hand clasped over her chest. Cassidy, Merlin, and Shui Zhantian gathered around her with all sorts of expressions on their faces. The realm core can fuse into one's body? What's going on? Merlin's eyes widened with incredulity. My 30 milliliters of blood is gone. Cassidy's face was filled with grief. Is the heaven-shattering sage finally going to take that step? Shui Zhantian asked with a grave expression. The white light gradually dimmed, and Tina's breathing also gradually calmed down. It appeared that she was no longer in pain. She opened her teary eyes and sobbed as she curled up her legs in Enlin's arms. Giant Enlin, did I do something wrong? Enlin patted Tina's head with a smile. I'm glad you're all right. Let's get out of here. Outside the Black Tower, the white pillar of light that shot up from the bottom of the tower suddenly dissipated. The stocky elderly man who was just about to unleash his voice of slaughter to kill the two snow maidens suddenly stiffened, and he turned around with great difficulty as a defeated expression appeared on his face. What happened? Did I fail? No, the aura of the realm core has disappeared. The lanky old man turned to look at the tower in a daze, his eyes filled with confusion and disbelief. Everything had happened far too abruptly, and both of them were caught completely off guard. The defenses of the Black Tower had not been breached, but they had overlooked the fact that the upheaval had occurred from within. The sky began to shatter like a pane of glass that had lost its support before disappearing into thin air, revealing the boundless starry sky in the distance. The crimson formation on the ground also began to dim, and the light slowly faded away. Only the cries of ghosts continued to reverberate throughout the entire city, just like before. The realm-piercing nail transformed into a crimson line that shattered the Black Tower's protective spell formation. One figure after another flew out from the Black Tower. Anlin, Tina, Cassidy, Merlin, as well as Shuizhantian, who was holding Qin Cheng, Miya, and Tobias in his mouth. After the fragment of the realm core was devoured by Tina, the terrifying illusionary realm seemed to crumble on its own, and the three returned to Void stage mighty figures who had been trapped in the illusionary realm all awakened. They weren't stupid. After looking around, they roughly understood the situation. Thus, they all had different expressions on their faces. Have they been rescued? No, they might not necessarily have been rescued. The Light Wing clan returned to Void stage mighty figure Qin Sheng's expression darkened as he looked at the two blood tribe cultivators beside him. Tobias chortled with glee. Cassidy, Merlin, well done. Not only did you save me, but you also successfully captured two enemy mighty figures. I'll be sure to report this to Emperor Yi Deng and have him reward you handsomely. Miya's eyes were downcast, but she was looking at Anlin with a contemplative expression on her face. The dark realm vines binding their bodies possessed extremely fearsome sealing power, so they were still incapacitated. If they wanted to regain their freedom, they would most likely have to rely on external forces to get rid of these dark realm vines. Cassidy, hurry up and get rid of these annoying black vines for me, Tobias commanded. However, what surprised him was that Cassidy turned a deaf ear to his words. He faltered slightly before turning toward Tina. As for Anlin, he had already automatically ignored him. What could a soul formation stage cultivator do? Could it be that this fairy was the true leader of this team? Tobias was just about to speak to Tina when the two red-robed elderly men in the distance both turned toward Tina as boundless killing intent erupted from their bodies. Who are you? Why have you suddenly appeared here? The stocky elderly man asked with a menacing expression. Where's the fragment of the realm core? The tall and thin elderly man clenched his fists tightly, clearly unable to maintain his composure. I don't know. The fragment of the realm core suddenly disappeared, Anlin replied with a confused expression. I saw it quite clearly. It seems like it tore through space and fell into chaos, Cassidy chimed in with a serious expression. Everyone else remained silent. Who the hell would admit to something like that? If he really admitted it, wasn't it obvious that he was telling the two old men to come and hit me? That was a blatant mockery. Therefore, at this time, playing dumb and playing Tai Chi was the way to go. It was all thanks to the arrival of Anlin and the others that the two returned to Void stage snow maidens were able to catch their breaths. Lu Dongbin's lips were still stained with blood, and he was still dizzy from being punched by the tall and thin elderly man. He flared up with rage at the sight of Anlin being sandwiched between two blood tribe cultivators. Be ****. Release Anlin or I'll kill you with my sword. Merlin faltered slightly before pointing at himself. Are you talking about me? And you? Lu Dongbin pointed his longsword at Cassidy. Cassidy, don't worry, Anlin, I'll be sure to protect you. A warm smile suddenly appeared on Lu Dongbin's face, as if he was trying to reassure Anlin. Don't worry, Senior Lu, we're all on the same side. Anlin was really afraid that Lu Dongbin would charge up and kill his underlings, so he hurriedly offered an explanation. What did you say? Lu Dongbin's expression faltered. As you can see, they're my servants, Anlin replied. Everyone instantly fell silent. Cassidy and Merlin nodded with earnest expressions. Anlin is our master, we're all on the same side. Lu Dongbin. His body suddenly swayed slightly, and he rubbed his head before looking up into the sky. What a terrifying illusionary realm, when did I fall for it? Wow! You're so awesome, Giant Anlin. Even my two brothers and sisters have become your servants. An adorable smile appeared on Tina's face as she perched on Anlin's shoulder like a little bird. Aside from the two red-robed elderly men, everyone else turned to look at Anlin, and all of them drew sharp intakes of breath. The situation was very clear now. Enlin was the leader of the team. So he's Enlin from the battle at the Vermilion Bird sect? He really is unfathomably powerful. Su Jingxiang looked at the handsome man with a hint of awe and veneration in her eyes. His calm and collected demeanor toward that tall and thin elderly man is already very impressive, Yan Hua chimed in. There was actually something that she didn't say, and that was, if it weren't for the fact that Enlin had led his team out of the Black Tower in time, they would most likely have died here. In a sense, it could be said that Enlin had saved them. Tobias was the most astonished of all. He stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before his eyes, feeling as if his mind had been turned to mush. Cassidy and Merlin, who were revered by countless Blood Tribe citizens in the dark marshlands, had become the servants of a soul formation stage cultivator? Even an illusionary realm couldn't be this F***king ridiculous. In the end, Tobias turned to Enlin and his lips trembled, but he didn't know what to say. Qin Shing heaved a faint sigh of relief. The human race was on good terms with the Lightwing clan, so he was sure that he had been saved. Sure enough, Tina seemed to have received Enlin's voice transmission, and she nodded lightly before waving a hand. A white light imbued with the power of destruction shot forth from her palm, instantly pulverizing the dark realm vine around Qin Shing. The leader of the Lightwing clan returned to Void Team, Qin Shing, had been freed. This was the clearest declaration that Enlin was indeed the leader of this team. Just as everyone was in a state of shock, the two red-robed elderly men sprang into action. Their target was the core of this team, Enlin. Chapter 549. The tall, skinny old man abruptly charged toward Enlin as he let loose an enraged roar and launched a fist with all his might. His fist was enshrouded in golden flames, and the power imbued within it made the entire space tremor. This was his full power attack. It was quite clear that he was going to kill Enlin on the spot. He didn't know where the fragment of the realm core was, but he knew that the only thing he could do now was to kill everyone here, even if it meant leaving behind only a corpse. The tall, skinny old man was extremely fast, but when he unleashed his attack, an extremely domineering white sword projection pierced through the air toward his back. Lu Dongbin finally sprang into action upon seeing the tall, skinny old man's actions. However, to his surprise, a determined and vicious expression appeared on the tall, skinny old man's face as he made no attempt to evade the sword projection behind him. Instead, his fist was already crashing down upon Enlin. The fist grew larger and larger in Enlin's eyes, and the entire space around him seemed to have been frozen solid, leaving him with nowhere to run. Right at this moment, a white feather flashed through the air, and a figure instantly appeared before him. A golden ring revolved at the very front, reversing the monstrous power behind the fist. Boom! The fist was imbued with earth-shattering power, and the golden ring tremored violently as boundless power was reversed into the ground, creating a massive crater over a kilometer in diameter. However, the golden flames enshrouded by the tall, skinny old man's fist pierced through the golden ring before striking Qin Shing's chest with devastating power, burning a massive hole into his chest. PFFF. Qin Shing swayed slightly, as if he was about to collapse to the ground. Seeing as you're going to take my fist for him, then die. The tall, skinny old man had initially planned to spare the return to Void stage mighty figure's life, so that he could use him to reincarnate all the ghosts in the new Qi Lu city. However, the whereabouts of the fragment of the realm core was now unknown, and he was no longer in the mood to do so. The white sword projection also punctured the tall, skinny old man's body at this moment, tearing a hole into his heart. Lu Dongbin's pupils contracted upon seeing this. There wasn't even any flesh or blood in the hole, as if everything was just an illusion. Right at this moment, the tall, thin old man had already turned around and unleashed another punch. The terrifying power of the punch caused Lu Dongbin to vomit blood again as he stumbled back. I see, so you're also ghosts. Lu Dongbin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a hint of shock and pity on his face. Golden flames erupted from the old man's fists once again. "We shouldn't have to bear this sin in the first place. I have to save this city that I once protected. I have to lead them away from this world." The strings hummed softly, and suddenly, a sound spread throughout the world. The short and stout old man in red stroked the zither, and an extremely sorrowful melody reverberated throughout the world. The struggle of thousands of years, the endless loneliness and despair, calamity descended upon all living creatures. The extreme prosperity instantly turned into dust, and death inexplicably descended. Flesh and blood fell apart, and bones were buried underground. However, they could not transcend. Why? What did we do wrong? Confusion, fear, resentment, despair. The ghost wandered around the ancient city all day long, repeating everything that had happened when he was alive. It seemed like the prosperity of yesterday had not changed at all. The stars were obscured again, and a rain of blood poured down from the sky. And Lin felt as if countless people were screaming in despair in his mind, and his consciousness trembled violently as he felt a rush of dizziness. Not only him, but all of the Return to Void stage mighty figures present felt as if their minds were about to explode. An extremely terrifying mental attack swept through heaven and earth, imbued with the grief and indignation of the billions of living creatures in the city. The short and stout old man's aioli attack had caused everyone to fall for it. "Wah! They're so pitiful," a cry that was pleasing to the ear like an aureole pierced through the countless cries of despair, and like a ray of light in the darkness, it clearly entered everyone's ears. And Lin clasped his head in his hands before turning to look at Tina. Tina sniffled as she wiped tears from her eyes. Her green eyes glowed with a white light, and the fragmented object in her pupils was like a mirror, reflecting the entire world. Within the mirror was a bustling city with countless people living busy yet contented lives. Outside the mirror was a dilapidated ancient city, and countless ghosts wandered between heaven and earth with nowhere to go. The white fragment in her green eyes was a mixture of reality and illusion, as if it was a fusion of reality and illusion. Tina's body then shuddered slightly, and a brilliant light erupted from her body. A pillar of light rose into the sky with her body at the center, tearing through the rain of blood in the sky. Then, a white vortex appeared in the sky, which enshrouded the entire city with boundless suction force. The two red-robed old men's eyes widened as they stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. This is the aura of the fragment of the realm core?" the tall old man murmured. The ice doll in Yen Hua's hand pointed at Tina as it yelled incessantly. Yen Hua was quite annoyed, and she immediately flattened the ice doll. "I can sense that the fragment of the realm core has already fused as one with that fairy. What an enviable opportunity this is!" A bitter smile appeared on Su Jingxiang's face. Within Qi Lu City, countless wandering ghosts began to fly toward the white vortex in the sky. Even the two red-robed old men could sense the suction force emanating from the fragment of the realm core. Tina looked at the two red-robed old men and spread open her arms with tears in her eyes. "Grandpa Lv Qing, Grandpa Luo Qing, thank you for protecting me. Go home, I'll come to pick you up." Her white silk dress danced in the air like a beautiful white lotus in the night sky. Tina's eyes shone with a faint light that reflected the heaven and earth. At that moment, she was like a saintess who had come to receive all living beings. The two red-robed old men saw the bustling Qi Lu city in Tina's eyes. It was a city that was so realistic that it made them shed tears, and there were many ghosts descending from the sky before disappearing under the dazzling sun. So that's how it is. A mirror of heaven and earth, turning illusory into reality. So the world core really can do that. Although it's different from us creating a new world, it's indeed a good place to return to. The tall, thin old man's body was already slowly floating up. The stocky old man put away his guqin as a smile of relief appeared on his face. "Who would have thought that we would be the ones to be saved in the end?" The tall old man nodded before turning to Tina as he opened his mouth. Tina faltered slightly before quickly regaining her composure. All of the ghosts in Chi Lu City flew toward the white vortex in the sky before merging into the fragment of the realm core in Tina's eyes through the pillar of white light. The two red-robed old men were relieved after seeing all of the ghosts fly into the vortex, and they no longer resisted the suction force as they flew toward the vortex of their own volition. Old LV, we've been partners for so long, so I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the future, the stocky old man said with a smile. Of course. Remember to eat more when you get to that world, old LV. Otherwise, I might not be able to recognize you, the tall old man replied with a smile. The two of them slowly sank into the white vortex and disappeared. The pillar of light slowly disappeared, and Chi Lu City finally fell completely silent. There were no more wandering ghosts, only the gentle moans of the wind. Tina closed her eyes and the white shards disappeared. Her emerald eyes returned to their usual bright green color. Her petite body swayed slightly and fell towards the ground. Then, she fell into a warm embrace. Well done, little Na, the handsome man praised. A sweet smile appeared on Tina's face. There's still one more treasure. I'll tell you about it later. Chapter 550. Unlin's eyes immediately lit up at the mention of treasures. However, he quickly regained his composure, and his face was as calm as the wind and clouds. The two red-robed elderly men had already left, so it was time to clean up the battlefield. Su Jingxiang and Yen Hua knew that Tina had fused with the fragment of the realm core, but they didn't dare to attack. Setting aside the unfathomably powerful Enlin and the powerful group of cultivators behind him, even Tina's combat prowess wasn't something that they had a chance of winning in their current state. Hence, they made a very decisive decision. White mist and snow enshrouded their bodies as they disappeared from this world. Enlin and the others didn't give chase. Firstly, they didn't possess the terrifying power of the red-robed elderly men, and secondly, they weren't in a good state either. Tina had just unleashed the power of the fragment of the realm core, and her features were a little pale. She sat on Enlin's shoulder with a limp body, as if all of her energy had been sapped away. Lu Dongbin and Qin Xing were in a much better state. Both of them were severely wounded, and they immediately sat down to meditate after swallowing a pill to stabilize their injuries in case their Dao foundations were affected. Enlin also landed on the ground with Cassidy and the others before swallowing a spirit pill to replenish their energy. Enlin, the development of your forces is too frightening. Lu Chuchu flew over atop a gust of wind, and the tips of her toes tapped lightly against the ground as she descended gracefully like a butterfly. She wore a seductive smile on her face as she stared at Enlin with a pair of sharp eyes filled with curiosity. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face. That can't be helped. I'm too charismatic, so everyone wants to follow me. Merlin rolled his eyes and didn't say anything. However, Cassidy pulled out her white longsword from her spatial magic tool and stared at Tobias with a scorching light in her eyes. She seemed to be plotting something. A chill ran down Tobias' spine, but he didn't say anything. He had already figured out the situation he was in. He had fallen into the hands of the humans, and the two blood tribe returned to Void stage mighty figures had already betrayed him. Furthermore, they had become the servants of a soul formation stage cultivator. This was simply an extremely bizarre horror story. Wow. You're so awesome. Lu Chuchu seemed to have already grown accustomed to Enlin's boasting, and she nodded before turning toward Tina. She poked Tina's delicate little face with a curious expression. Little fairy, how come you've also grown bigger? Because I've grown up. Tina replied with a wide grin. Lu Chuchu's lips twitched. Well, both of her questions were answered with nonsense, and she felt that she couldn't continue. Like master, like pet. She hugged the soft and fluffy Shui Mengmeng tightly in her arms, sighing in her heart that her pet beast was still the most considerate. Enlin waited until his blood energy was fully replenished before dripping some blood onto Cassidy's white longsword. Cassidy made her way over to Tobias with a scorching light in her eyes, and a mysterious smile appeared on her face, sending chills running down Tobias' spine. "This is a blade smeared with poison," Cassidy said as she stuck out her sexy little tongue and licked the blade. Slap! Unlin delivered a karate chop to Cassidy's head. "If you keep licking, you're going to lose your holy blood reward," Unlin warned in a cold voice. Cassidy pursed her lips before turning to Tobias again and raising her sword. Tobias immediately yelled in a panicked voice, "What are you doing? I'm telling you, if you dare to do anything to hurt me, Emperor Yi Deng will never forgive you. He's going to make you suffer a punishment that's 1,000 times more painful than death." "Cut the crap. I'm trying to purify your filthy life form. You're getting off too easy." Cassidy rolled her eyes with displeasure as she slashed a massive gash into Tobias' chest with her sword. Blood splattered through the air. Tobias groaned in pain as he gritted his teeth and glowered at Cassidy. All of a sudden, his entire body shuddered, as if he had fallen into extreme agony. Immediately afterward, his eyes became glazed over, and a peculiar flush appeared on his face. Lu Chu made her way over to Enlin with astonishment on her face. "Poison Lord, are you going to poison him to death with your blood? He's a Return to Void stage blood tribe mighty figure. Even a Return to Void stage mighty figure can't withstand your blood poison?" "I'm not going to poison him to death, but he'll be very loyal to me in the future." A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face. Lu Chu looked at Enlin with confusion on her face. She then seemed to realize something, and she abruptly turned toward Cassidy and Merlin before turning toward Tobias, upon which she drew a sharp intake of breath. Could it be? Tobias had already opened his eyes, and there was a healthy flush on his face. He looked at the two blood tribe mighty figures before turning his gaze toward Enlin. "No wonder. I feel like my life form has been elevated to a higher level. I understand now." Enlin wielded his evil-slaying sword and instantly sliced the dark realm vine around Tobias into countless pieces. "Establish a slave contract with me, and I'll give you a chance to obtain my holy blood again." A hesitant expression appeared on Tobias' face, and his entire body stiffened on the spot, as if he was engaged in an extremely intense internal conflict. "If you don't want to, then piss off. Otherwise, you'll have to fight over the holy blood with us," Cassidy harumphed coldly. "We can't let him piss off. We have to kill him so that he doesn't report back to us," Merlin said with a serious expression. "Tobias, all right, I'll do it." Tobias's furrowed brows suddenly relaxed. "For the holy leader to possess such holy blood, I'm sure you'll become an unprecedented figure in the future. It won't be beneath me to be your servant." Tobias's words were very convincing, and Enlin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. "You're calling me the holy leader? That's a good title." He turned toward Cassidy and Merlin. "Don't call me master from now on. Call me the holy leader." Cassidy and Merlin's faces convulsed slightly, and they nodded with difficulty. "Yes, holy leader." The rest was quite simple. He told Cassidy and Merlin to piss off before releasing his blood essence to secure the master contract. Everything was done in an extremely smooth and practiced manner. Enlin then told Tobias about the reward for the holy blood and released 5 milliliters of holy blood to Cassidy on the spot. Cassidy tasted the holy blood with a blissful expression, and Tobias and Merlin were extremely envious. Finally, Enlin exchanged 3 milliliters of holy blood for Tobias' storage ring. Tobias' weapon was an immortal tool, so Enlin didn't take it. Instead, he took all of Tobias' other belongings with him. Tobias was extremely touched. Lu Chu was completely dumbstruck. She couldn't believe that something like this could be done. "Enlin, why, you're way too terrifying." Lu Chu couldn't help but exclaim. Shui Zhantian sneered. "Don't make a fuss over nothing. My master is a being who transcends the 9 heavens, so it's only natural that he would be able to make them submit to him." "Didn't you say we were going to fight together?" Just a few days ago, we were still struggling in the ancient divine division, but a few days later, you're already the ruler of the Void Star section. This world is insane. Lu Chuchu looked up into the sky and sighed with emotion. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face. A person has to learn to set a goal to strive for. Only then will they become bad *SS without even realizing it. For example? Lu Chuchu asked. For example, I can set a small goal and earn 100 Golden Realm Essence crystals. Enlin suggested with a smile. Lu Chuchu's chest tightened. Why don't you say earn 100 million first? Enlin stroked his chin. 1 Golden Realm Essence crystal is equivalent to 1,000,000 spirit stones, so 100 Golden Realm Essence crystals would be 100 million spirit stones. You're right. Lu Chuchu. Lu Chuchu felt like she and Enlin were from two completely different worlds, and she was going to develop high blood pressure if she continued to chat with him. Enlin sorted through the items he had plundered from Tobias' storage ring with an elated expression on his face. 2 Golden Realm Essence crystals, 5 Red Realm Essence crystals, 3 Blue Realm Essence crystals, 25 White Realm Essence crystals, 1,300,000 spirit stones, 30 spirit pills, 12 spirit fruits, 7 spirit tools, and 3 immortal fruits. The immortal fruits were 6th grade Dark Wind immortal fruits, which granted the user the power of Dark Wind for a short period of time, thereby drastically increasing their speed. Enlin tidied up these items before turning his gaze toward Mia, who had remained silent this entire time. This Spirit Fish Clan mighty figure was technically an enemy of the human race, so how should he deal with her? Chapter 551. Mia detected Enlin's gaze, and she raised her head with a slight smile. She was extremely beautiful, so her smile was also very beautiful. A pair of clear and spirited blue eyes added a lot of charm to her smile. Thank you, young Master Enlin, for saving me. Even though Mia was bound by the Dark Realm Vine, she still tried her best to bow slightly and salute humbly. Enlin didn't say anything, and his gaze wandered over Mia's body. Mia's blue dress was quite short, and it revealed her slender waist, which was as slender as a willow tree branch. Below that was her long and slender blue fishtail, which was smooth and exquisite. Her figure was really good. Mia seemed to have noticed Enlin's gaze, and a blush appeared on her face. However, she quickly suppressed this shyness. It wasn't strange for others to be in awe of her beauty. Where is it? Enlin asked with furrowed brows. Mia was a little dazed, and she looked at Enlin with a confused expression. I looked all over your body, and I didn't see any spatial storage magic tools. Tell me honestly, where did you put it? Enlin threatened. Could it be that he was looking at my body just now to find a storage artifact? Mia didn't know whether to rejoice or feel sad. She looked at Enlin with a complicated expression. My left earring is. Enlin came to a sudden realization. No wonder he didn't find any accessories that looked like magic tools. It was an earring, so it was hidden well. He happily took off Mia's earring and refined it. 1 Golden Realm Essence crystal, 3 Red Realm Essence crystals, and 10 Green Realm Essence crystals. 750,000 spirit stones, 3 spirit tools, 30 spirit pills, and a bunch of seafood. Enlin furrowed his brows. So poor. Mia's face convulsed slightly, but she maintained her smile. Enlin thought for a moment before taking off Mia's right earring and refining it. He was disappointed to discover that it wasn't a spatial storage magic tool. You really are this poor. Mia. Enlin thought for a moment before drawing his evil-slaying sword and pointing it at Mia as killing intent began to emanate from his body. Mia's expression changed slightly, and she begged, Please don't kill me. Sure, then establish a slave contract with me. Enlin nodded. Mia pursed her lips tightly, and there was a look of extreme resistance on her face. I can't do it. You have to realize that we're enemies, so give me a reason not to kill you. Enlin was never one to show mercy to his enemies. If he let Mia go this time, what if she killed him the next time they met? Mia hesitated momentarily before replying, I'll give you a piece of information in exchange for my life. I know of a mystic realm that has been deduced from the previous explorations of the ancient monsters of the West Sea. There might be a huge amount of realm essence crystals there. It's just that the guardian beast of the mystic realm is too powerful for me to break through. However, I can guarantee that there are definitely a lot of realm essence crystals there. I can bring you there. How can I believe what you're saying? Anlin asked with a hint of interest. It had to be said that any information regarding realm essence crystals would be able to move him. I can swear an oath in the name of the ancient monster patriarch. Mia replied with a serious expression. Anlin turned toward Cassidy and the others. The West Sea Spirit Fish Clan swears an oath to the ancient monster patriarch. Even returned to Void stage mighty figures must abide by this oath. Otherwise, their Tao foundation will crumble. Tobias nodded. All right, you can swear the oath now. Anlin paused for a moment before adding, you have to swear an oath as well. You can't attack us or any other human beings in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Mia immediately nodded without any hesitation. After swearing the oath, Mia regained her freedom. A joyful smile appeared on her face as she bowed again. Thank you, young Master Anlin, for saving my life. As an enemy, her gesture was extremely appropriate regardless of whether it was sincere or insincere, and Anlin couldn't muster up the slightest bit of disgust toward her. After a while, Lu Dongbin and Qin Xing finally stabilized their injuries and stood up from their meditation. Lu Dongbin turned toward Anlin to discover that he was surrounded by 3 blood tribe mighty figures. Even Tobias, who had been quite hostile toward him a moment ago, was now treating him with reverence and respect. This was an extremely beautiful scene. He was in a daze. As expected of the number 1 supremely talented cultivator of the Celestial Court. Even his underlings were all returned to Void stage mighty figures from the enemy forces. This was going to defy the natural order. He had initially thought that he was going to protect Anlin after encountering him. But now, it seemed like he was the one being protected, for some reason. He recalled what the Black Dragon had said. It was Anlin who had killed it. Lu Dongbin didn't dare to think any further, and he immediately made his way over to greet Anlin. Qin Xing also fell into a daze at the sight of the blood tribe, the human race, and the West Sea ancient monsters. He didn't know what he should be feeling at this moment. Everything that had happened seemed to be because of the young man who was surrounded in the center. Anlin. Oh, I remember now. Shirley had mentioned him before. He was the cultivator who had performed brilliantly during the Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers a year ago. But why had he come to the Void Star section to perform brilliantly now? His rate of growth was way too terrifying. Qin Xing sighed with emotion before making his way over to express his gratitude to Anlin for saving his life. That's right, if it weren't for Anlin, he would most likely have already perished here. After learning that Anlin was in dire need of Golden Realm Essence Crystals, Qin Xing immediately pulled out 3 Golden Realm Essence Crystals from his storage ring as a token of gratitude. Anlin was ecstatic. He felt like this big brother angel was both handsome and easygoing, and he happily accepted the gift. Lu Dongbin also pulled out 2 Golden Realm Essence Crystals from his storage ring, saying that he was returning the favor to the Black Dragon. Anlin didn't know whether to laugh or cry after hearing Lu Dongbin's words, but he still accepted the gift with a smile. Lu Chuchu was almost drooling at the sight of this. Anlin had obtained 5 more Golden Realm Essence Crystals in the blink of an eye. This was an extremely fortuitous opportunity. Anlin, why do you need so many Golden Realm Essence Crystals? Can you give me one? I'll exchange it for a Realm Essence Crystal of the same value, Lu Chuchu said as she blinked at Anlin with anticipation in her eyes. Anlin chuckled and turned her down in a roundabout manner. No. Lu Chuchu. Why? I told you, my goal is to collect 100 Golden Realm Essence Crystals, and that's nowhere near enough. Unlin replied with a solemn expression. Lu Dongbin laughed heartily. You must be joking, Mr. Unlin. Perhaps all of the realm essence crystals in the Return to Void realm combined won't even amount to 100 golden realm essence crystals. Unlin heaved a forlorn sigh. That's why I said there's still a long way to go. I've only collected 40 golden realm essence crystals so far. His storage ring flashed as he spoke, and 40 golden realm essence crystals appeared in his storage ring. In that instant, golden light lit up the entire sky, and the space within a radius of over 50 kilometers became viscous. Lu Dongbin and Qin Shing's eyes widened as they drew sharp intakes of breath. Miya and Tobias stared blankly at the golden realm essence crystals hovering in the air, unable to utter a single word. Cassidy and the others knew that Unlin wouldn't accept any golden realm essence crystals, but they were still stunned into silence after seeing Unlin release all of his realm essence crystals. Lu Chuchu's legs gave out from under her, and she almost knelt to the ground. Unlin was extremely satisfied at the sight of everyone's expressions. Chapter 552. Unlin was starting to fall in love with the feeling of flaunting his wealth. Aside from absorbing energy, the golden realm essence crystals could also be used to flaunt. After flaunting his wealth to his heart's content, he stowed the golden realm essence crystals away with satisfaction. Everyone felt as if the blinding golden light had disappeared, but the dizziness still lingered. They didn't know whether it was because their eyes had been stimulated, or because their minds had been stimulated. Lu Dongbin murmured to himself, I forgot to count just then. How many were there again? Qin Shing massaged his brows. I think it was 40. 14 is 14, 40 is 40. Lu Chuchu murmured to herself in a daze. Why was there such a monstrous disparity between humans? Miya hung her head in shame. She was a little indignant when Unlin called her poor, but now she was completely convinced. She wasn't even convinced by immortal pills, but she was convinced by filthy Richin. I told you I wasn't lying. My goal is to collect 100 golden realm essence crystals. If you find any extra golden realm essence crystals in the future, you can exchange them with me. I can even purchase them at a premium, Unlin said with a smile. Lu Dongbin nodded. He really believed Unlin's words. He really was going to collect 100 golden realm essence crystals. There's such a huge disparity between Return to Void stage and Soul Formation stage. Something doesn't seem right. He heaved a long sigh before turning to Unlin. What's your plan from now on, Mr. Unlin? Unlin didn't hide anything and told Lu Dongbin and the others about Miya's situation. Lu Dongbin nodded. Seeing as you're going to search for realm essence crystals, Unlin, we won't be joining you. For safety's sake, you can come with me, Lu Chuchu. Lu Chuchu nodded. This was the Void Star section, after all. With her current power level, it was best for her to be a coward and follow behind a powerful being. Qin Shing also bade farewell upon hearing this. He still had to go to another region to search for a certain treasure. Lu Dongbin, Lu Chuchu, and Qin Shing left one after the other, leaving Unlin's group with only Shui Zhantian, Tina, the three Blood Tribe mighty figures, and Miya. This was already a power that rivaled an entire ancient power. Alright, now we can go dig for treasures, Tina said excitedly. Dig for treasures? Cassidy looked at the little elf with a perplexed expression. Tina didn't say anything else as she flew toward the black pagoda and slashed her heart lotus ice sword toward the bottom of the pagoda. The blue sword light formed a crescent moon of frost and snow that was 300 meters long and directly cut the tower from the bottom. Rumble! The tower that had stood for countless years was cut down by a single sword strike because it had lost the support of power. The collapse of the tower caused the ground to shake. Gravel flew everywhere, and smoke and dust filled the air. No one knew what Tina was going to do, but they all followed her. Immediately afterward, they saw Tina digging something on the ground. She quickly dug out a circular pit that was 3 feet deep. Another blue sword light slashed towards the huge crater. With a loud rumble, countless golden lights burst out, and the surrounding space immediately became viscous. Everyone looked at the bottom, and their eyes widened once more. Their faces were filled with shock. At the center of the pit, there was a black object that had been sliced into pieces by the sword projection. Within the object, there were 10 golden realm essence crystals that were glowing with a dazzling light. Around the golden realm essence crystals, there were 30 blue realm essence crystals that glowed with the light of the ocean. They complemented the golden realm essence crystals in the center of the pit. "Little Na, you really are a hero to me." Unlin's eyes lit up as he stowed away all of the realm essence crystals into his bag with an elated expression. Tobias, who had only just begun following Unlin, was a little dumbstruck. Is the holy leader really this blessed? Mia's face was filled with confusion, and she couldn't help but ask, "So I can obtain so many realm essence crystals just by digging a pit? Do I have some misunderstanding about this world?" "Phew. We've finally completed half of our target. Let's keep up the good work." Unlin offered words of encouragement. Everyone, "Oh, that's right, Mia, I hope the mystic realm you told me about won't disappoint me." Unlin turned to the mermaid beside him with anticipation in his eyes. "Mia, what could Mia do?" She could only force a smile onto her face. She couldn't say that she was under too much pressure, could she? These realm essence crystals were most likely going to be used by the 2 red-robed elderly men when they were constructing their realm. However, who would have thought that Tina would save them before they could even construct their realm? In order to repay her kindness, they gave these realm essence crystals to Tina. Thinking about it now, Tina seemed to have taken away all of the 2 red-robed elderly men's belongings. Regardless of whether it was the fragment of the realm core, the realm essence crystals, or even the wandering souls and the red-robed elderly men, she had taken everything away. After taking care of the matters in Chi-Lu City, Unlin and the others set off toward the location that Mia had told them about. Mia led the way, and they were headed toward the Black Sea. The purple grassland bordered the Black Sea, and they had expended a lot of effort to travel from the purple grassland to the realm of Dead Spirit. Who would have thought that they would have to go back now? What a cruel twist of fate. On the boundless Black Sea, there was a gargantuan island. There were many fluorescent plants on the island. There were red, green, blue, and gold plants, and they lit up the entire island in an extremely dazzling manner, as if it were a bright pearl on the ocean. There was a white cave in the center of the island, and there was a long dragon with a metallic luster outside the cave. Its eyes were crimson, and its body was over a kilometer in length. Its aura was extremely vast and terrifying, and the vital energy of heaven and earth surged with its every breath. None of the ferocious beasts on the island dared to come within 5 kilometers of this dragon. Otherwise, they would be killed by a single sneeze. However, within a 10-mile radius of the salamander, there was a black shadow that was sneakily observing it. He had a pair of black wings, bronze-colored skin, and a massive saber hanging from his waist. That's right, he was none other than Dao Yi, who had fled to the Black Sea after being scared away by Enlin on the purple grassland. He had discovered this strange island in the Black Sea, and his instincts told him that there was definitely a massive treasure trove here. Not taking into account anything else, just the fact that there was an extremely powerful black dragon guarding the entrance to the White Cave was enough to tell him that there was definitely something extraordinary within the cave. As someone who cherished his life, he had observed the black dragon for a few days, and he had developed a rough understanding of its power. As such, he felt like he had to go back and get reinforcements. He was the one who had discovered the treasure trove, but he had to share it with someone else. He remembered that his teammates were in this area, and if he used his aura detection talisman, he should be able to find them. Right at this moment, a faint ripple suddenly erupted in the air not far away, immediately following which the space was torn open. Dao Ye's heart jolted, and he immediately withdrew his aura. How could this be? There were other Return to Void stage mighty figures who knew about this place. A beautiful mermaid flew out from the spatial crack, and she was followed by 3 black-robed figures with concealed auras. All of them bowed slightly toward the spatial crack, as if they were welcoming an extremely important person. Dao Ye's heart jolted with shock upon seeing this. Even though the 4 of them had concealed their auras, Dao Ye could still tell that they were Return to Void stage mighty figures. He couldn't help it as they were all too familiar. There was the Spirit Fish Clan mighty figure, Miya, who was of the Return to Void intermediate stage. There were the Return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figures, Merlin and Cassidy, as well as the team leader of the Return to Void stage team, Tobias, who was at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. When did the West see ancient monsters team up with the Blood Tribe? Also, just what kind of mighty figure was worthy of such humility and respect from them? He was greeted by the sight of a young man in a flowing white robe holding a white furry ball in his arms with an extremely beautiful fairy sitting on his shoulder. Dao Ye's eyes widened in astonishment upon seeing the man's face. His lips trembled as he uttered an incredulous name, Unlin? Chapter 553. Unlin clicked his tongue in wonder as he looked at the glowing plants on the ground. He picked up his phone and took a photo. The black dragon's habitat is up ahead, and it's guarding a white cave. I'm extremely sensitive to energy, so I can sense the energy fluctuations of the crystal essence crystals within the cave. Miya pointed at a white dot in the distance. Oh, so that's the black dragon? It looks pretty powerful. Unlin nodded as he looked at the black dragon in the distance. He could feel the vital energy surging around it. Miya nodded. I don't know if it's suppressing its cultivation base, but it's at least at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. Furthermore, it's a primordial dragon, so it's even more powerful than the average Return to Void intermediate stage mighty figure. If you really want to tame this black dragon, I can use a binding spell formation to help you. Unlin wasn't afraid of this black dragon. As long as it was a normal life form, then it definitely wouldn't be at the Return to Void final stage. Otherwise, it would suffer backlash from the laws of heaven and earth. Seeing as the black dragon could only unleash power at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage, Unlin's team had 2 Return to Void initial stage mighty figures and 2 Return to Void intermediate stage mighty figures, so why would they be afraid of it? Let's go. Show it the power of our team. Unlin spoke with a smile. 5 figures flew toward the black dragon like bolts of lightning. The black dragon sensed their auras, and it raised its head. The black metallic scales on its body opened and closed like flowing black water, and its crimson eyes exuded a menacing cold light. Who would have thought that there would be people who would dare to provoke me? The black dragon opened its mouth with a disdainful sneer. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar instantly erupted forth for close to 10 kilometers. Terrifying sound waves swept forth like massive waves, pulverizing the ground and sending all of the nearby plants flying. Even the space around them began to tremor and compress. The expressions of the 3 Blood Tribe cultivators remained unchanged. Cassidy slashed her crimson sword through the air and sliced through the terrifying sound wave. Tobias stepped through the air and leaped through the opening created by the sound wave. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived before the black dragon's head. A sinister ghostly face appeared on his gauntlets as he launched a ferocious punch downward. The fist tore through the void, and the black fist energy directly bombarded the black dragon's head, causing the entire ground to shake violently. Black Dragon's body was smashed to the ground by the tremendous force. It was at this moment that a 1,000 zhang tall blood demon formed. Merlin controlled the blood demon formed by the battle souls to unleash a relentless barrage of punches onto the dragon's body. Every single attack was like a huge mountain crashing down. They possessed vast might and boundless strength, and the black dragon's body was almost buried into the ground. Miya, who was responsible for restraining the Blood Tribe cultivators, was given a fright at the sight of the Blood Tribe cultivators' lightning-fast coordination. This level of teamwork was virtually invincible against return to void final stage mighty figures. Dao Yi, who was secretly observing from the side, was completely horrified by this scene. If he was the target of the three blood breeds, he would have been dead by now. He looked up at Lin in the sky with a hint of shock and horror on his face, and he was struck by a sense of profound mystery. Howl! The black dragon finally realized that his opponent was no ordinary being, and it let loose an enraged roar as dark clouds instantly obscured the sky and gale-force winds swept through the sky. A massive bolt of black lightning over 100 feet in length tore through the air before instantly puncturing the blood demon's head. The battle souls seemed to be extremely fearful of the bolt of lightning, and after the blood demon's head was punctured, countless battle souls dissipated into nothingness. The surviving battle souls also fled in terror, and the blood demon was showing signs of crumbling. The black dragon twisted its body, and its metallic tail swept toward Tobias at an extremely fast speed, leaving only a black afterimage in its wake. Tobias's heart jolted, and he immediately lashed out with both fists toward the dragon's tail. Boom! The collision between the two attacks instantly caused heaven and earth to fall silent. Immediately afterward, an extremely violent explosion of energy erupted, pulverizing everything within a radius of close to 10 kilometers. Dao Ye's heart jolted with shock, and he hurriedly retreated in order to avoid being caught up in the shock waves of the battle. At the sight of such a terrifying battle, Tobias's desire to take advantage of the situation for his own personal gain was suddenly reignited. Tobias was not as powerful as the black dragon, and the muscles on his arms were torn apart by the terrifying power of the black dragon's tail, and his body flew back several dozen kilometers like a cannonball. Right at this moment, several dozen massive pillars of water soared into the sky before transforming into a series of water ropes that swept toward the black dragon. The black dragon had only just finished swinging its tail when its body was tightly bound by the pillars of water. Miya chanted in the language of the ancient demons, and countless runes appeared within the pillars of water, making them extremely resilient. The extremely powerful binding force even caused the black dragon's massive body to falter for a split second. During this split second, a peerlessly sharp crimson sword projection fell from the sky. The sword projection pierced through the clouds, slicing the boundless dark clouds in the sky in half. When the sword fell, a crimson line pierced through heaven and earth, illuminating the entire world with a crimson light. Boom! The sword projection struck the black dragon's neck, and the sharp blade projection pierced through the dragon's body, slicing the earth in half. Did it work? Miya stared at the black dragon's head with excitement on her face. Cassidy had been accumulating power for this attack for a long time, and it could be said that this was the most powerful attack she had unleashed so far. The black dragon didn't evade, nor did it use any spell techniques to defend itself. Thus, it was struck in the neck, and even if it didn't die, it would be severely wounded. The crimson light dissipated, and the black dragon's body shimmered with a dark sheen, but there wasn't a single wound on its body. Cassidy was dumbstruck, and even Miya was staring at the black dragon with incredulity on her face. That sword strike just then was extremely fearsome, and even a return-to-void final stage mighty figure would be wounded if they didn't put up any defenses, but this black dragon was completely unscathed? Is that so hard to understand? A mocking smile suddenly appeared on the black dragon's face. I've lived for a long time, and the thing I'm most proud of is my indestructible defenses. You think you can defeat me with those attacks? Stop your wishful thinking. Its body quickly rotated to form a black tornado as it spoke, which pulverized the pillar of water around it. Cassidy was just about to retreat when an extremely fearsome burst of black energy erupted from the tornado, hurtling toward her body with devastating destructive power. This was the black dragon's full-force attack, and Cassidy was completely unable to evade it, so she could only grit her teeth and take it head-on. Whoosh! A white figure suddenly appeared before her with a single hand extended forward. The oncoming burst of black energy was suddenly absorbed by a peculiar ripple before erupting again, but this time in the opposite direction. The burst of black energy tore through the tornado before crashing into the black dragon's body, and a terrifying explosion tore the ground apart once again. Master! Cassidy's eyes widened as she stared blankly at the figure before her. Call me Holy Leader, Unlin replied before patting Tina's delicate little leg on his shoulder. A white light flashed, and Unlin's body disappeared into thin air. The black dragon let loose an enraged roar after being struck by its own attack. Right at this moment, a white light flashed, and Unlin appeared within 100 meters of it. The insignia of a golden eye appeared on his forehead, and ripples began to proliferate before sweeping toward the black dragon's body. Divine Plunder Technique. Among the 18 different spell techniques and talents, Unlin had plundered the ability to isolate all things. In that instant, the black dragon felt as if it had lost something, and its black, metallic body suddenly dimmed. Chapter 554. A white light flashed, and Unlin disappeared on the spot once again before reappearing over a kilometer away. Tina's spatial teleportation ability was quite useful, and Unlin had managed to catch the black dragon off guard by unleashing his vermilion bird mirror and divine plunder technique. He immediately yelled to Cassidy and the others, "Attack the black dragon. I've already taken away its powerful defensive abilities, so this is a good opportunity." Cassidy and Merlin's expressions both shifted upon hearing this. He could even take away the black dragon's defensive abilities? As expected of the Holy Leader, Mia felt that Unlin's words were far too unrealistic. However, after seeing the black dragon's scales suddenly dim, she had no choice but to believe that this black dragon had indeed changed. A massive black fist tore through the clouds before descending from the sky. Tobias, who had been knocked flying by the dragon's tail, returned and launched an extremely powerful punch toward the black dragon's head. The punch struck the black dragon's head, and its body was smashed into the ground again. At the same time, it threw up a mouthful of blood, staining the ground below it. Mia, Cassidy, and the others' hearts jolted upon seeing this. It really was working. At this moment, everyone was no longer holding back. A blue water formation rose into the sky as the blood demon materialized again. The situation on the battlefield was instantly reversed. Unlin, on the other hand, continued to sit on his black brick and spectate the show from afar. Dao Ye's heart was filled with astonishment as he observed from the side. This was the real Unlin. He was able to force an extremely powerful black dragon into dire straits with just a wave of his hand. Was this something a soul formation stage cultivator could do? A normal soul formation stage cultivator would most likely be scared witless by such a powerful being. But what about him? His expression remained completely calm and tranquil. His steadfast temperament and unfathomable power. It was no wonder that the Dark Knight Monarch had fallen at his hands. The Moonlit Knight Monarch was in great danger. Dao Yi could no longer muster up the courage to face Unlin head-on. He felt like he had to continue hiding like this in order to survive. After that, he had to give the Moonlit Knight Monarch a warning after getting out of here. Fighting against such a terrifying existence was extremely dangerous. The black dragon was continuously beaten up, and fresh blood seeped out of its dragon scales. It looked extremely miserable. Just when everyone thought that it was going to be besieged to death, the dragon's scales all over its body suddenly spread open, and its eyes shone with a bright red light like two small red suns. Its aura instantly skyrocketed. Roar! Its body suddenly swayed in a circle, and the terrifying power distorted the space into a spiral shape. Everyone in the area suffered internal injuries from the violent counterattack, and they all retreated. The black dragon also abruptly pounced toward Unlin at this moment. Yes, its current target was Unlin. Its defense was broken because of Unlin, so only by killing Unlin could this situation be resolved. Seeing this, Tina immediately cast a barrier. Unlin stopped her. "Hurry up and leave this place. I'm invincible during this period of time. Tina instinctively heeded Enlin's words and quickly retreated. In contrast, Enlin charged directly toward the oncoming black dragon. Compared to the gargantuan black dragon, his figure was extremely minuscule, but his fearless figure was extremely dazzling in everyone's eyes. Mountain-shaking lightning, slap. Enlin didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before his body was slammed into the ground by the dragon's sharp claws. The black dragon wasn't going to hold back, and its claws were extremely powerful, tearing a black rift in space and tearing a gargantuan chasm into the ground. However, Enlin rose into the sky again after a single breath. He chortled at the black dragon. "Little black brat, your attack really doesn't hurt me at all. Can't you use a little more force?" Cassidy and the others were astonished to see Enlin in this state, and the black dragon was completely perplexed. How could this be? Roar! It suddenly unleashed a dragon's breath upon Enlin, and black flames incinerated the space around it, leaving a trail of black flames in its wake with no end in sight. Enlin didn't take evasive measures. Instead, he stood on the spot atop his brick with his hands on his hip. His body was knocked back over a kilometer by the fearsome flames, but he was still standing on the spot, completely unscathed. "Tui, are you spitting saliva or flames? There's no heat at all." Enlin wore a disdainful expression. The black dragon, Xiao Zhe, was completely dumbstruck. Why was this human's defenses even more powerful than his? What are you still standing there for? Take advantage of its weakness and kill it. Enlin yelled at the dumbstruck Cassidy and the others. He had taken away the black dragon's ability to isolate all things, and that ability only had a time limit of 10 minutes. He couldn't let the black dragon know about this, so he could only pray that his army could defeat the black dragon within 10 minutes. Only then did Cassidy and the others recover from the shock inflicted upon them by Enlin, and they began to attack the black dragon again. The black dragon finally lost all of its battle intent at the sight of the oncoming return to Void stage mighty figures. It was unable to kill its core members, and its most prized defense had been taken away. If things continued like this, it was going to lose for sure. It was too strange, it was really too strange. Who would have thought that it would be crushed by a soul formation stage human cultivator? Xiao Zhe stared deeply at Enlin, as if he was trying to commit all of Enlin's features to memory. "I, Xiao Zhe, will definitely pay you back for this." The black dragon opened its cavernous mouth and roared at Enlin. This roar was imbued with the boundless might of a dragon from its bloodline, and a black soundwave swept toward Enlin with an extremely fearsome might. It wasn't hoping that this attack would be able to harm Enlin, but it was determined to crush Enlin with its aura alone. Enlin didn't plan to evade. He was immune to the power of all things, so there was no need for him to evade this attack. However, an unexpected turn of events suddenly took place at this moment. The ring on his finger, which was glowing with a faint yellow light, suddenly began to tremor violently as if it had been stimulated by something. Immediately afterward, a vast and powerful will suddenly burst forth from within Enlin's consciousness, dispelling all of the dark clouds in the sky. The projection of a black dragon appeared in the starry sky. This was an indescribably mighty being, and its appearance made all of the stars in the sky dim. The golden light in its eyes seemed to be the only color between heaven and earth. Boundless ferocious might enshrouded the entire island, and it felt as if the entire island would be reduced to dust with a single flick of its finger. "Are you trying to intimidate me?" The projection of the black dragon's words resonated with the great Tao of heaven and earth, striking fear into the hearts of onlookers. Xiao's body went limp at the sight of this black dragon projection, and he collapsed to the ground in fright. He kowtowed incessantly. "Senior, I had eyes but failed to recognize you. I didn't mean to offend you, please spare me." Xiaozi was also a black dragon, but compared to this mighty being, it was like comparing a giant dragon to an earthworm. They weren't even on the same level. He was completely petrified, and he could only kowtow incessantly as he begged for mercy. The black dragon projection remained silent as its body slowly dissipated. Unlin's consciousness was struck by a stabbing pain, which seemed to be the after-effect of summoning that will. The stars in the sky appeared first, but everyone was completely dumbstruck. They still hadn't recovered from the scene that had just unfolded. Unlin also didn't think that the ring that Yang Yuan had given him would unleash its power at a time like this. Not only was Xiaozi scared out of his wits, but everyone else was also shocked. No one dared to say anything in fear of being slapped to death by that being. Xiaozi wiped the cold sweat off his forehead with lingering fear as he looked at Unlin with a grateful expression. "Thank you for sparing my life, Senior." Unlin. Chapter 555. Unlin didn't know what to say as he looked at the black dragon kowtowing to him in gratitude. Could it be that Xiaozi had mistaken him for that extremely powerful black dragon? It was no wonder that Xiaozi would think this way. Unlin was only at the soul formation stage, but he was able to recruit a bunch of Return to Void stage mighty figures to work for him, and he was even able to steal his defensive abilities. How could a soul formation stage cultivator do something like that? No matter how he thought about it, he had to be some mighty figure in disguise. Xiao Zhe's suspicions were confirmed when the projection of the black dragon appeared. Furthermore, this black dragon was countless times more terrifying than he had imagined, and he was completely unable to muster up the will to resist. To put it in simpler terms, Xiao Zhe had been scared out of his wits. "Get up, I just want to go into the stone cave to get some things." Unlin waved a hand with a nonchalant expression. That's all right. Take whatever you want, Senior." The black dragon waved its two antennae in an obedient manner. Unlin nodded with a pleased expression. "Good boy. How about this, I'll return your defensive abilities to you in 3 minutes. Xiao Zhe's body trembled, and he was so touched that tears almost began to flow from his eyes. "Thank you, Senior. I'm extremely grateful for your generosity, Senior." Unlin shook his head with a nonchalant expression. "It's all right. The Divine Plunder technique only lasted for 10 minutes, and it would vanish in 3 minutes. I'm so smart." Cold sweat poured down Dao Ye's back, and his legs were trembling slightly. Unlin's fearsomeness had once again refreshed his worldview. If the moonlit night monarch were to provoke such a powerful being, she would be dead for sure. No. He made up his mind to stop the moonlit night monarch from acting like an idiot. Shuizhantian stared at Unlin with a scorching light in his eyes. This was his master, the mighty being who reigned above the heavens and stood at the pinnacle of the stars. One day, Master would bring it along and trample this world to pieces. Ancient Tai Chu realm, ancient divine division. The two suns in the sky dimmed slightly as they faced a certain direction. Is that Chu Dong? No, it's just a wisp of consciousness. After the indistinct and undetectable voice fell, the two suns in the sky returned to their original brightness and continued to revolve around the collapsed ancient domain. 3 minutes later, a metallic sheen suddenly appeared on Xiaozi's bloodied body. It could feel that something had returned. His wounds were healing quickly, and as his metallic dragon scales opened and closed, all the filth on his body was shaken off. Xiaozi looked gratefully at Unlin once more, as if he was looking at a god. Unlin nodded slightly at Xiaozi and flew straight toward the white cave without looking at it. Cassidy and the others faltered momentarily before coming to their senses and following behind Unlin. Mia had already fulfilled her vow after successfully suppressing the black dragon. However, for some reason, she still chose to follow behind everyone. She simply couldn't repress the curiosity in her heart. Unlin didn't mind her following along. She had already sworn a vow to the demonic patriarch that she wouldn't harm the human race or any of Unlin's team members. If she dared to go back on her vow, her Dao foundation would crumble, and that was a price that Mia definitely didn't dare to bear. Tobias stared at Unlin with a scorching expression. "Holy leader, are you a member of the dragon tribe, Or do you possess the dragon tribe bloodline? Unlin smiled faintly and didn't give a direct answer. I'm a human. Oh, so you possess a powerful dragon tribe bloodline. Tobias felt like he understood Unlin's words. Thank you for saving me just now, a seductive voice sounded. Unlin turned around to discover Cassidy looking at him with a hint of admiration and gratitude in her eyes, as well as a hint of shyness. After meeting Unlin's eyes, she averted her gaze and pursed her sexy red lips. Was she really King shy? Unlin was quite surprised. This was great. He didn't have to worry about her harming him anymore. Everyone walked toward the white cave, and right at this moment, a young man with short black hair suddenly ran toward them from behind. Senior, wait for me. The young man had delicate features with inky black dragon horns on his head. His clothes were tattered and stained with blood, but he wore a fawning smile on his face. Unlin turned toward the young man with a peculiar expression. You're Xiao Zhe? The young man nodded excitedly. That's right, I'm Xiao Zhe. What are you doing here? Are you going back on your word and trying to stop me? Unlin asked with a smile. No. Xiao Zhe shook his head with a serious expression. I'm here to lead the way because I'm afraid you won't recognize the way, Senior. Unlin. All right, lead the way. So there was a guide for raiding someone else's home. That was fantastic. However, Unlin wasn't going to trust him completely. He was going to search every nook and cranny of the place. There were many statues of ferocious beasts within the cave, and there was a pool of black water at the center of the white stone slab. The water was bubbling incessantly and exuding a faint fragrance. This is the dragon marrow demonic liquid, and it's where I usually take my baths. Xiao Zhe introduced as he pointed to the pool. Unlin was tempted by the sight of it, and he really wanted to pack it up and leave. Xiao Zhe didn't think that Unlin would even be interested in his bathwater, and his body shuddered slightly, but he didn't dare to say anything. This is your cave abode? Unlin asked curiously. Yes, but before I came here, this was a cave abode left behind by an extremely ancient mighty figure. There are some things in here that even I can't use, as if they're fixed to this world. Xiao Zhe didn't hide anything as he replied. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried that Unlin would blow up his entire home in order to take something, he wouldn't have volunteered to lead the way. He continued onward until he arrived in front of a stone slab, upon which he carved a spell formation. Following a loud rumbling sound, the stone slab began to crack open from the center, and a spell formation appeared on the ground. A rainbow light barrier shimmered behind the cracked stone slab, and an opening appeared in front of everyone. Xiao Zhe walked in first, and Unlin and the others discovered that there was nothing around them. However, there were extremely powerful energy fluctuations within the spell formation, and they knew that the black dragon hadn't lied to them. The treasure really was within the light barrier. After entering the light barrier, the first thing that everyone saw was a woman shimmering with golden light. Unlin, Cassidy, Merlin, and the others all drew a sharp intake of breath. Expressions of astonishment and incredulity appeared on their faces, as if they had seen something extremely inexplicable. This woman's features were exquisitely beautiful, and she had one hand on her sexy waist while her other hand was raised in a flying kiss. Her entire body was completely exposed, and it was as if she was the most flawless work of art in this world. The boundless golden light emanating from her body almost blinded everyone. That's right, she was a beauty constructed from Golden Realm Essence crystals. Chapter 556. This was the first time that Unlin had ever seen a Golden Realm Essence crystal like this, and he was astonished beyond belief. Such a beautiful woman! How many Golden Realm Essence crystals would that be worth? He murmured to himself. Not much at all. Just 23. Xiaoze waved his hand and said in a somewhat pleased manner. Unlin looked at Xiaoze with a hint of surprise in his eyes. You're so sure of this? Did you do this? That's right. Realm essence crystals are essentially source materials that stabilize space and give birth to matter. Since they're material, then they can transform into different forms. What do you guys think of my dragon maiden? Xiaoza asked with a buoyant smile as he caressed the golden beauty. Dragon maiden. Anlin looked up into the sky with a forlorn expression. Everyone else also forced smiles onto their faces as they didn't have the heart to provoke Xiaoza's little hobby. Senior, do you like her? Xiaoza asked with a scorching light in his eyes. Anlin looked around to discover that there were no other realm essence crystals aside from this dragon maiden. The fluctuations that Miya had mentioned earlier had most likely originated from this beauty. He nodded without hesitation. I do. Then I'll give her to you as a gift. Xiaoza carried the golden realm essence crystal beauty to Anlin and planted an affectionate parting kiss on her lips before parting ways. When I first took over this island, she was just a bunch of unassuming crystal sources. I gave her a new life, and she accompanied me for the rest of my life. You have to treat her well. Tears welled up in Xiaoza's eyes as he spoke to Anlin with a solemn expression. A gift? Anlin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Even though he wasn't interested in the new dragon maiden, he still put her away in his storage ring in order not to become a eunuch. Xiaoza wiped away his tears upon seeing Anlin accept the dragon maiden before taking him on a tour of his treasure vault. He had obtained 23 golden realm essence crystals just like that? Tobias turned to Cassidy with astonishment on his face as he transmitted his voice. Does the holy leader always obtain golden realm essence crystals like this? Why do I feel like we were looking for different things before? Cassidy massaged her brows and heaved a forlorn sigh. Master's target is about to be achieved, but I'm going to lose another holy blood channel. What do I do, Tobias? As expected, he didn't live in the same world as this group of people. Miya did not want to speak anymore. No matter what, those treasures were not hers anymore. She just wanted to see what she had missed. Xiaoza brought Anlin to a pile of glittering treasures and said, "These are all minerals unique to the Black Sea. Do you need them?" Anlin looked at it and wasn't interested, so he put the treasure into his storage ring. Well, just because he wasn't interested didn't mean he wouldn't accept it. After all, this kind of unique mineral was worth a lot of money. No one knew what Xiaoza was thinking. His face was still full of smiles as he brought Anlin to another place. Spirit tool? Withdraw. Spirit pills and spirit fruits? Withdraw. The body of the Black Sea immortal eel? Withdraw. More than 100 primordial stones? Withdraw. One valuable item after another was put into his storage ring, and he collected them wherever he went. Tina couldn't help but transmit her voice to Anlin. Giant Anlin, aren't we being a little too shameless? Anlin chuckled. Can't you see that Xiaoza is so happy? Aren't you afraid that he has ulterior motives? Tina was a little concerned. Even Tina had noticed this, so how could Anlin not be aware of this? He transmitted his voice to Anlin. Regardless of what that black dragon is thinking, it's a good thing to take all the good stuff as soon as possible. After that, we don't care what he's after. Our fists are the biggest, so whatever he wants will depend on our mood. Tina flapped her intricate golden wings with a thoughtful expression upon hearing Anlin's words. Thus, Anlin was led away by Xiaoze, and before he knew it, they had emptied out the entire stone cave treasure vault. He wasn't holding back at all. Ah, this place is finally empty. Xiaoza placed his hands on his hips with a smile on his face. Everyone's faces convulsed upon seeing Xiaoza's expression. Had this child been scared senseless? Anlin was also very pleased. Little Xiaoza, you did a good job. I have to commend you. No need, no need. Xiaoza waved his hands. These items can only be used in your hands, Senior. I just wanted to give them a good home. Anlin nodded with a benevolent expression. Next up is the main event. Xiaoza's eyes were clear and excited. He stomped his foot, and another spell formation appeared on the ground. Everyone was slightly startled upon seeing this, and they looked at Xiaozi with cautious expressions. At the same time, they formed a protective barrier around Enlin. Powerful spatial power swept forth, and the space at the center of the treasure vault suddenly shattered as if it had been struck by a sledgehammer, revealing the space within. Powerful energy fluctuations began to radiate outward, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Enlin looked toward the space within and saw 3 peculiar items hovering in the air. They exuded a boundless and unchanging aura, striking fear into everyone's hearts. Xiaozi introduced with a smile. These are the primordial items that have been here since before I came to this cave. I don't know why the previous owner of this cave didn't take these items with him, but I know that these items definitely have extraordinary origins and are extremely rare treasures. There were originally 4 items here. Aside from the crown, the golden flame badge, and the black cube, there was also a drop of black blood. But among these 4 items, only that drop of black blood is very close to me. I can actively absorb it and greatly enhance the power of my bloodline. I've studied the other 3 items for thousands of years, but I haven't been able to make any progress. A hint of regret appeared on Xiaozi's face as he spoke. However, he then turned toward Enlin with an expression of anticipation on his face. Senior, you're here because you're fated with me, and you're fated with these items. Hence, if you're willing to take these items, I'm willing to give them to you. Enlin faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he slowly made his way over to the 3 treasures. Xiaozi had studied these items for thousands of years, but he was still unable to take them for himself. Now, he was asking Enlin to try? Regardless of whether Xiaozi's actions were a test or genuine, Enlin only had one thought in his mind, and that was that he was determined to take these 3 items. Enlin made his way over and touched the items with his hands. All of the items had been frozen in place by the power of space, and they were completely unable to move. However, he knew that this wasn't the power that was stopping Xiaozi from refining the items. After all, Xiaozi was a return-to-void stage mighty figure who could tear open space, so this bit of spatial freezing couldn't even compare to a single slap from him. The most important thing was that the items were imbued with a wisp of the power of the divine Tao. This was a power that could only be unleashed by a mighty figure who was on the verge of the Tao integration stage. In other words, if he wanted to refine these items by force, he would have to erase this power of the divine Tao. However, if he wanted to erase this power of the divine Tao, he would have to reach the return-to-void final stage or even the return-to-void pinnacle stage. If a mighty figure of that level were to appear in this world, they would have already been killed by the laws of heaven and earth. In other words, if he wanted to refine these items, he had to use the correct method and not the crude method. Enlin pondered for a moment before a smile appeared on his face as his eyes turned snowy white. Divine Inspection Technique. Chapter 557. The Divine Inspection Technique could identify the essence of all things in this world, as well as the development of all things, as well as their flaws. Enlin unleashed his Divine Inspection Technique on the crown, upon which a string of information began to appear in his mind. The regal crown was forged from the essential blood and spine of a divine dragon by Shao Tu, a dragon tribe mighty figure. It can unleash boundless dragon might and is a must-have flexing tool. This crown already possesses intelligence, and if you want to conquer it, you need to make it admire you. The information was very short, but it contained a lot of information. Shao Tu and Lin thought back to the dragon tribe mighty figure who had always wanted to die but couldn't. So this F** king belonged to that B** starred, no. And Lin suddenly came to a realization. Could this cave abode be that B** starred's home? A thought suddenly occurred to him, and he turned to look at Xiao Zhe with a complex expression. Xiao Tu and Xiao Zhe shared the same surname, so could they be family? And Lin couldn't help but ask, "Do you know Xiao Tu?" Xiao Zhe nodded with a yearning expression on his face. Xiao Tu. He's a supremely talented mighty figure of our Xiao dragon tribe. He has attained the Tao of indestructibility and is halfway to the Tao integration stage. He's the pride of our tribe. Xiao Zhe's expression was glowing at the mention of Xiao Tu, and it was quite clear that he was very proud of himself. Could it be that Xiao Zhe was able to absorb that blood because they shared a similar bloodline? It's just a pity that he was imprisoned by the laws of heaven and earth in order to seek refuge in the Dragon Valley. Us return-to-void stage mighty figures are unable to rescue him, so I wonder if he's doing well now. Xiao Zhe sighed with melancholy on his face. So it's that suicidal dragon. Haha, what a fateful encounter. I heard about him from my master. Don't worry, my master has already killed him. Shui Zhantian flapped his little wings and chortled with glee. Everyone instantly fell silent. Xiao Zhe stared blankly at Enlin and Shui Zhantian. Did he hear wrongly? Xiao Tu was dead? Don't worry? What kind of logic was that? Xiao Zhe was completely dumbstruck. Aya, it's not what you think. Tina immediately offered an explanation upon seeing Xiao Zhe's dumbstruck expression. It begged Giant Enlin to kill it. That way, it would be able to resurrect itself through a resurrection spell formation and escape from that place. Now that it has been killed by Enlin, it has successfully escaped. Xiao Zhe stared at Enlin with incredulity on his face. Senior, did you really kill Xiao Tu? Enlin smiled and nodded. It's nothing. Hiss. Xiao Zhe gasped. As expected of an existence that made him tremble in fear, terrifying to the extreme. As for the other team members, they were already used to being shocked. At most, they would let out a wow and sigh with emotion that their master had actually done such a deranged thing to help people ascend to heaven. Where is Uncle Xiao Tu right now? Xiao Zhe asked in an eager manner. This world is no longer suitable for him, so he has gone to the Tai Chu continent. Enlin didn't hide anything and revealed everything he knew. Xiao Zhe nodded. Apart from the Ao family, all of the other branches of our dragon tribe are very reluctant to part with this continent. It's a pity that this world is not something that we can contend with. Enlin couldn't be bothered to respond to Xiao Zhe's sigh as he continued to play with the crown before him. He put on his illusionary star robe, and his aura swelled explosively to the return-to-void pinnacle stage before unleashing a divine might technique. Everyone was given a fright by Enlin's soaring aura as well as the divine might radiating from his body. The crown, which had developed some intelligence, was no exception. Its body shuddered before becoming limp, and it even began to glow with a faint light, as if it were begging Enlin to take it with him. It was quite clear that it was very much in awe of the current Enlin. Enlin began to refine the crown. Success. Thus, he smoothly stowed the crown into his storage ring. Off to the side, Xiao Zhe was still lamenting the life of a dragon, but by the time he came to his senses, Enlin had already stowed the regal crown away into his storage ring. He was confused again. I've spent thousands of years researching this artifact to no avail, but it was refined by Enlin just like that? Cassidy and the others actually didn't have much hope in Enlin either. After all, this kind of item was all about fate. You had to understand it in order to refine it. The Black Dragon at the pinnacle of the return-to-void intermediate stage had been studying it for thousands of years, so Enlin couldn't possibly be able to refine it in a short period of time. How would Xiao Zhe feel if that happened? In the end, slap slap slap. Cassidy and the others were astonished again. Xiao Zhe was dumbstruck again. His eyes were glazed over and his mouth gaped open. He felt like his face was hurting a little. He was actually in a very conflicted state. He hoped that Enlin would be able to refine these items, but at the same time, he didn't want Enlin to be able to refine these items. He had an obsessive-compulsive disorder. If these items weren't taken away by someone else, then he would feel like he had missed out on something beautiful. It was exactly because of this that he hoped that Enlin would be able to take these items. That way, he wouldn't be able to hold on to them as they already belonged to someone else. At the same time, he didn't really want Enlin to succeed. He had worked hard for thousands of years to no avail. If someone else were to come and take all of these items, then what was the point of all of his hard work? What about all of his thousands of years of hard work? Enlin continued to attack as he unleashed his divine inspection technique upon the golden badge. Divine Flame Badge, an intermediate rank immortal tool refined by Shao Tu using 99 types of Tai Chu exceptional flames. It hasn't consumed any divine flames for 150,000 years, so it's in an extremely hungry state. If you want to make it attach itself to you, you just have to feed it with divine flames. That's easy. I have 4 divine flames: Great Holy Flame, Demonic Star Flame, Setting Moon Flame, and Heavenly Void Flame. Come out. The 4 divine flames suddenly appeared before burning toward the divine flame badge. Xiao Zhe looked at Enlin with a confused expression. Senior, what are you doing? Why are you burning it? Enlin chuckled. Let me ask you, how long has this golden badge been burning for? Xiao Zhe shook his head. I'm not sure. It's been burning ever since I got here. Then let me ask you again. Who gave it the power to keep burning like this? Isn't it tired? Isn't it hungry? Isn't it running out of energy? Enlin asked again. Xiao Zhe's body shuddered. This was like a rude awakening. Not only had his confidence been dealt a heavy blow this time, but he was also beginning to doubt his intelligence. Time passed by slowly, and he unleashed his full power this time. The flames burned for a full 4 hours as he swallowed blood spirit pills. In the end, just as his body was about to be completely depleted, the divine flame badge was finally full. Enlin refined the divine flame badge again before stowing it away into his storage ring. Shui Zhantian was extremely excited. As expected of Master, it's just a mere artifact, yet it's as easy as breaking through bamboo, pressing forward with indomitable will and winning successive battles. Enlin rolled his eyes. Don't go crazy, there's still one more. He made his way over to the black cube before activating his divine inspection technique again. Spatial Magic Box. Shao Tu's 9th resurrection trump card. Upon death, he can be reborn within the magic box. Aside from that, it also has the effect of sealing space. It is currently in a dormant state due to a lack of nourishment from the blood of high-grade dragon tribe cultivators. Enlin was a little speechless as he stared at the box before him. Just how many resurrection trump cards had Shao Tu set up? Could it be that his Tao of indestructibility was achieved through countless resurrection trump cards? However, the effects of this spatial sealing seemed to be quite good, so he couldn't just throw it away. After grumbling about Shao Tu for a while, he turned to Xiao Zhe with a smile on his face. Xiao Zhe's hair stood on end at the sight of Enlin's peculiar smile, and he stumbled back a couple of steps before speaking in a trembling voice. Senior, why are you looking at me like that? Little Xiao, why don't you give me some blood? Enlin suggested with a smile on his face. I don't think so, Senior. Look at my tiny body, I don't have much blood. Xiao Zhe's body trembled slightly upon hearing the word blood, and he forced a smile onto his face. You'll have a lot of blood if you transform into your true dragon form. Enlin's smile remained unchanged as he continued, There's love in this world. Just give me your blood to sow love. Chapter 558. Xiaoze was extremely resistant to the idea of letting out blood, but after Enlin explained the uses of the blood, he finally gave in after a series of coaxing and pestering. Xiaoze was willing to do something like this in order to get rid of his mental illness. He didn't want to leave these treasures here. He had to get rid of that thought. Under the influence of this weird, obsessive-compulsive disorder, he slit his own wrist. Is that enough? I can't take it anymore. Not enough, I want more. No, I can't take it anymore. Don't stop, use more force. Xiaoze lay on the ground in exhaustion. He looked up at the spatial magic box that Enlin had put away into his storage ring, and a blissful smile appeared on his face. Enlin walked up to him and pulled out a red pill from his storage ring before handing it to Xiaozi. "This is..." Xiaozi murmured to himself as he looked at the pill, which was exuding an extremely powerful life force. "This is an 8th-grade immortal pill, the Blood Rakshasa pill. It can help you recover your blood essence and injuries at an extremely fast rate. You've lost so much blood, take one." Enlin smiled. "Thank you, senior." Xiaozi accepted the immortal pill with a grateful expression. This senior was so generous and so gentle after everything. He really hadn't chosen the wrong person. Enlin looked around with a hint of longing in his eyes. "It feels like it's already empty. Is there anything else here?" "There's one more important thing that you can't miss out on, senior." Xiaozi looked up at Enlin with a serious expression. "What is it?" Enlin's eyes lit up, and his heart was filled with anticipation. A smile appeared on Xiaozi's delicate features. "That thing is me. Senior, please accept me." Enlin, everyone, what was going on? After giving away all the treasures in the treasure vault, he was going to give it to himself? "Little Xiao, what do you mean by that?" Enlin repressed the urge to shout, "Holy F***CK," with a smile on his face. "Senior, I am a direct descendant of the Xiao clan of the Dragon Tribe. My bloodline is pure and powerful, and I believe that I have some potential. Furthermore, my heart is as passionate as the sun, and I am a dragon with great perseverance who will never give up." Xiao Zhe continued. "So, what are you trying to say?" Enlin was confused. "Senior." Xiaozi looked at Enlin with a passionate gaze and said excitedly, "Can you accept me as your disciple? Now that the inheritance of the Dragon Clan has been severed, only a great existence like you can illuminate my path of seeking the Tao. I beg you, please accept me." Xiaozi's voice echoed throughout the cave. Enlin was dumbfounded. Cassidy and the others' eyes widened, and Factorization Omega was dumbfounded. Enlin wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said somewhat speechlessly, "So, those treasures from before were the dowry you gave me? Pooh! You gave me as a meeting gift? That's not the case." Xiaozi shook his head and said, "What belongs to a disciple also belongs to you, master." Enlin's chest constricted, and he felt as if he were about to throw up a mouthful of blood. F***CK off. He's calling me master now. And he's shaking his head? What the F***CK are you shaking your head for? That was clearly what he was trying to say. Enlin had never thought about accepting a disciple, and he certainly didn't want to accept a dragon at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage as his disciple. What the F***CK? The disciple could kill the master with a single slap. How was the master supposed to teach his disciple? Even if he wanted to accept a disciple, Enlin didn't have the face to accept him. "Little Xiao, you can't rush things like this. The path of seeking the Tao is a long one, and you will encounter many other people. There will definitely be better choices than me," Enlin said in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. "No, master, you are the best choice for me. Your gaze and your majesty have already won me over." Xiaozi spoke with a stubborn expression. The veins on Enlin's forehead bulged. Did this dragon not understand the meaning of rejection? Why was he being so stubborn? Sigh. "We're not fated to be together yet." Enlin shook his head and sighed. Xiaozi grabbed onto Enlin's hand. "No, fate is something that you have to fight for. Moreover, you and I met here. No discord, no concord. This is fate. Enlin, everyone, what do I do?" He felt like if things continued like this, Xiaozi was really going to stick to him. As expected, he was so enthusiastic and even helped to clear out the treasure vault just for this final step. Never would he have thought that Xiaozi would want to become his disciple. "I'll tell you the truth." Enlin wore a solemn expression. "Right now, I only possess a body of might, but I don't have any inheritance related to the Dragon Tribe. Even if you acknowledge me as your master, I won't be able to teach you anything." He was going to give up now. His image in front of Xiaoze was no longer important anyway, so he might as well let his image crumble. At most, it would just be another battle. To his surprise, Xiaoze's expression didn't change in the slightest. Instead, he looked at Enlin with even more respect. "I don't mind. I want to follow you, so I don't mind if you can't teach me anything. I just want to be influenced by what I see and hear." Enlin's lips twitched. "Tell me, what do I have to do to make you give up on the idea of becoming my disciple?" "I won't give up on becoming your disciple no matter what," Xiaoze said with a determined expression. "I'll tell you the truth, I'm a human. I don't mind. You've already won me over. I'm only at the soul formation stage. If you can do this as a soul formation stage cultivator, then I'll be even more convinced." "I'm a Virgo." "What's a Virgo?" "I don't care even if you're a Virgo or a Sagittarius." After the confession, Enlin stared blankly at the thin and delicate young man before him. At this moment, he had been won over by Xiaoze. To have someone who wouldn't look down on you no matter what you did, how fortunate was that? What reason did you have to reject someone like this? Enlin heaved a faint sigh. "Are you really willing to become my disciple? You won't regret it?" "I'm willing and I have no regrets," Xiaoze replied with a determined expression. Enlin massaged his brows. "All right, I'll agree to your conditions." Xiaoze was ecstatic, and he immediately knelt down. "Master, please accept a bow from your disciple." He was ecstatic. Only a ghost would believe him if he said he was a human or a soul formation stage cultivator. His master had said this to express his sincerity, so he naturally had to play along with his master's words. After living for so long, if he couldn't even learn this bit of flattery, then wouldn't he have lived his life in vain? From now on, they would have plenty of time to nurture their relationship. Then, they would occasionally receive pointers from Masterin, and that would be a wonderful experience. Enlin and Xiaoze established a master-disciple contract. This contract was quite simple. It only established a connection between the two of them and restricted the disciple from doing anything detrimental to the master. Otherwise, the disciple's Tao foundation would crumble. Just like that, Xiaoze became Enlin's disciple for no apparent reason. Cassidy, Tobias, and the others were all completely speechless. As expected of the holy leader, to be able to accept an extremely powerful black dragon as his disciple so quickly, his charisma was absolutely insane. As for Mia, she suddenly felt relieved. All the treasures belonged to Enlin, all the primordial artifacts belonged to Enlin, and even the dragon guarding this place belonged to Enlin. They weren't even from the same world. What else could she say? Thus, Enlin led the expanded team out of the White Cave. Chapter 559. Outside the White Cave, Dao Yi was sneakily hiding behind a boulder, using a mystic technique to conceal himself. He had already given up on the idea of taking advantage of the situation. The only reason he was here was to observe Enlin more clearly in order to provide information to the moonlit night monarch. Dao Yi felt like there weren't many people like him who were willing to take risks for the sake of the organization. After all, he was secretly observing a top-rate dragon tribe mighty figure, Enlin. This was the man who had scared a return-to-void intermediate stage black dragon into pissing himself with his aura alone. Even if he didn't reap much from observing such a fearsome being, it was still an act of bravery. He was definitely going to ask the Dark Wing Emperor for a reward when he got back. It would be best if he could earn the favor of the moonlit night monarch. Just as he was basking in his own happiness, a few figures appeared at the entrance of the cave. They've all come out, and Enlin looks a little depressed. Did he encounter some kind of problem? That handsome young man looks like Xiaoze in human form. Why does he look so happy? He's even tugging on Enlin's sleeve. When did they become so close? Master, where are we going next? Xiaoze asked with a smile, his face pure and adorable. and Lin's lips twitched involuntarily upon seeing this. He was clearly an old monster who had lived for who knew how many tens of thousands of years. Why was he pretending to be a newbie? Next, we're going to look for Golden Realm Essence crystals. I'm cultivating a divine technique that requires that material. And Lin shook his head. Xiao Zhe blinked his bright eyes in confusion. Master, are the 23 Golden Realm Essence crystals from before not enough? Not enough. I need to gather 100 Golden Realm Essence crystals, and I'm still short 27. Lin smiled lightly. Master is so awesome. You already have 73 Golden Realm Essence crystals. Xiao Zhe was truly astonished this time, and he was in awe of Lin's abilities. He was well aware of just how rare Golden Realm Essence crystals were in this place. Lin had only been here for about 20 days, but he had already collected a total of 50 Golden Realm Essence crystals. His efficiency was absolutely terrifying. Young Master Lin, congratulations on your fruitful return. I have also completed what I should do, so I will bid you farewell here. Mia bowed slightly to Lin. Her body swayed, and her fair skin was like the moon under the starlight. Only then did Lin remember that there was such a person in the team. After some thought, he made Mia swear not to reveal what she had seen and heard before letting her go. After dealing with these matters, the group discussed and decided to head north to the neighboring continental plate. Dao Yi looked at everyone leaving through the spatial tear, and his legs finally gave way, and he fell to the ground. Phew! This observation is too exciting, Li Yunmu muttered. An expression of lingering fear appeared on his face as he sighed with emotion. To be able to make a black dragon at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage willingly become your disciple, Lin, you sure have hidden your true strength well. On a colorful continent, there was auspicious energy rising for over 100,000 feet, and all types of peculiar living beings roaming around. There was also a holy sound reverberating through heaven and earth, and the vital energy here was more than 10 times more abundant than in the outside world. This was a place that could be used as a cultivation ground for a superlarge sect. However, this peculiar continent was over 5,000 kilometers in width. A purplish-red heaven engulfing python of several thousand feet in length opened its cavernous mouth before pouncing toward a certain figure. Whoosh! A blue sword projection flashed through the air, and the power of extreme frost froze heaven and earth within a radius of over a kilometer. The heaven-engulfing python was still in its pouncing posture when its body was sliced in half before plummeting to the ground, completely motionless. It had died just like that. A tall and slender woman in a golden robe sheathed her white longsword before turning to the woman beside her. Palace leader Yan Hua, if we go any further, even our lives will be in danger. Are you sure there's a fragment of the realm core here? The snow maiden holding the blue and white figure in her hands shook her head. I can sense the tiny ice soul being's heart throbbing. There's something it's very interested in. Should we continue onward, Rogu? I think we should go to the Earth Demon realm. Su Jingxiang also expressed her thoughts. The 3 mighty figures of the holy glacial lands had already gathered, but they didn't have much time left. There were less than 10 days left, and they had to find the fragment of the realm core within these 10 days. The leader of the Return to Void team, Rogu, hesitated momentarily before speaking. You said that a fairy has fused with the fragment of the realm core. I'm wondering if we can capture her and use her as a sacrificial core next time we encounter her. Perhaps she'll have the same effect as the fragment of the realm core. That team of theirs is very powerful. It'll be extremely difficult for us to snatch the fairy from them. Let's turn our hopes to this continent, Yan Hua said. She didn't want to provoke Lin, regardless of whether it was from a subjective or objective standpoint. On this point, Su Jingxiang also held the same opinion. Sometimes strength and weakness aren't absolute. Rogu was a little dismissive, but she already had a plan in mind. The 3 of them continued onward, and the mutant beasts they encountered became more and more powerful. After slaying a four-headed, two-faced minotaur, they arrived at the edge of a boundless plain. There was a black line that seemed to be dividing the two areas. Are you ready? Once we cross this line, we won't be able to turn back. We can only continue onward, Rogu spoke in a solemn voice. The other two snow maidens nodded with firm expressions. The remorseless realm was right up ahead. Anyone who entered this realm would be forced by the laws of heaven and earth, and they wouldn't be able to turn back or use spatial travel. They would have to pass through the black line on the other side of the remorseless realm. In other words, the entrance and exit had to be at opposite ends of the remorseless realm. There was an extremely terrifying danger in the center of this realm. Furthermore, the most important thing was that every living being who entered this realm would experience an extremely strong emotion, and that emotion would accompany them until they left this realm. Hence, this realm was also known as the realm of boundless emotions. What kind of emotion would appear? Some emotions had a huge impact on them, and they could directly affect their combat prowess. As such, the three snow maidens were actually quite nervous. Rogu, Su Jingxiang, and Yan Hua looked at one another before crossing the black line at the same time. As a result, Palace Master Rogu, who had always been steady and composed, directly lay on the ground and wailed bitterly. Su Jingxiang stared blankly at the countless stars in the sky. No one knew what she was thinking. Yan Hua was even more furious, and she slapped Rogu across the face. Cry my A**s. Rogu. Chapter 560. Rogu blushed as she looked up with tears in her eyes. Her sorrow was temporarily replaced by astonishment as she glared at the snow maiden before her. Yan Hua was also rooted to the spot. She didn't think that she would slap Rogu. Even though they were both holy palace leaders, Rogu's power and status were clearly superior to hers. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been appointed as the team leader. But just now, she had actually slapped Rogu in the face because of a disagreement. My God! What did I do? Yan Hua stared at Rogu with horror in her eyes. However, she suddenly flared up with rage upon seeing Rogu's enraged expression. What are you looking at? Rogu faltered slightly before bursting into tears. Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything wrong. Why did you slap me? I'm so pitiful. While Rogu's tears fell like rain, Yan Hua was enraged, and Su Jingxiang looked up at the sky with a melancholic expression. 2 hours later, the massive black brick pierced through the air and flew at high speed over this colorful continent. A terrifying aura emanated from the black brick, causing all of the nearby mutant beasts to flee for their lives. This aura was the combined aura of Cassidy, Merlin, Tobias, Tina, and Xiao Zhe. If all of these auras were focused on a soul formation stage soul beast, they would be able to instantly explode the soul beast's body. It was exactly because their auras were so powerful that they were able to travel very easily. Their enemies had fled before they even saw them, so how could they not be relaxed? After walking for a while, they arrived at the outskirts of the black line. This is the realm of boundless emotions? Can it really elevate certain emotions? Unlin asked with a curious expression. That's right. Tobias nodded. This was his third time in the ancient Tai Chu realm, and he spoke with a grave expression. If possible, I really don't want to come here a second time. Stop blabbering. Master wants the Golden Realm essence crystals, so this is the best place to go. Xiao Zhe was playing his part as a disciple, and was always looking out for Enlin. I Shuizhantian, fear nothing. Watch how I conquer this realm of boundless emotions. Shuizhantian's battle intent soared. Tina sat on Enlin's shoulder and didn't say anything as she looked around with a curious expression on her face. This place was very strange. There were all kinds of bright colors, and it was very beautiful. It was the place she was most satisfied with after following Enlin around. Enlin felt like this was the most annoying place to be in. If it weren't for the fact that Xiao Zhe had told him that there was a high probability of Golden Realm essence crystals appearing here, he wouldn't have chosen to come here. Let's go. Xiaoza led the way in front with an indifferent expression. Seeing this, everyone could only follow. Anlin crossed the black line with some apprehension. Then, a very strange feeling began to envelop his body. At the same time, Xiaoza, who was at the very front, suddenly stopped in his tracks. His body suddenly shrank a little as he took a few steps back and hugged Anlin's arm tightly. Anlin. Xiaoza forced a smile onto his face as he looked at Anlin with a hint of panic and dependence in his bright eyes. Master, I'm scared. I suddenly feel very insecure. Can you let me hug you, Anlin? Don't be scared, baby. I'm your tree, and I'll watch the sunrise with you for the rest of my life. Anlin said with a hint of sympathy in his heart. A crisp scream sounded. Anlin turned to find Shui Zhantian trembling uncontrollably as he covered his face with his wings. Even Xiaoza doesn't feel safe in this place. It must be very terrifying. I can't take it anymore. My life might end here. Shui Zhantian's face trembled with shock and horror as he yelled, "The accursed heavens must be trying to kill me here. They're plotting something sinister and treacherous, and I can sense that. I'm going to die here." Anlin made his way over to Shui Zhantian and held him in his arms as he heaved a faint sigh. "You're so pitiful. Don't be scared. Master is here to protect you." A gentle and compassionate smile appeared on his face as he raised Shui Zhantian up slightly before planting a kiss on the bridge of his delicate nose. Shui Zhantian. Xiaoza. Shui Zhantian faltered slightly as he stared at Anlin with woof eyes. Master is going to disgust me to death. He's so evil. To think that he would think of such a disgusting method of murder. My heart. I can't take it, my heart. Shui Zhantian's breathing accelerated with fear, and he almost couldn't breathe. Tina sat on Anlin's shoulder and tugged at Anlin's hair with her slender little hands as tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. "Giant Anlin, do you think I'm a piece of trash? I'm stupid, and I'm also a country bumpkin. I'm still so small, I don't know anything." "Of course not. Little Na, who hasn't been ignorant before." Anlin offered words of consolation with a smile. "You've already done very well. You're so beautiful and powerful." Tina recoiled slightly with a dejected expression on her face. "But aside from being beautiful and powerful, there's nothing else about me, Anlin. What else do you want?" Tobias looked up at a certain star in the sky before raising his hand. "Lucy, is that you? That star should be you, right? I knew you were still looking at me." The burly man suddenly buried his face in his hands and sobbed as he yelled at the top of his lungs, "Wah! Lucy, what happened to being a pair for the rest of my life? Why did you leave me? So what if you're looking at me from the sky? I can't see you." Everyone exploded with negative emotions, and the morale of the entire team instantly plummeted to a freezing point. However, there were two people who were a little different. Cassidy and Merlin were both chortling with glee as they clapped their hands in elation. "Ha ha! Look at Tobias. I've never seen him like that before. It's so hilarious, ha ha ha." Merlin was panting with laughter. Cassidy supported herself with one hand as she pointed at the trembling Shui Zhantian with her other hand. "Ha ha! That fat ball was just saying he was going to slay the heavens and defy the natural order, but look at him now. Even sea cucumbers and sea urchins aren't as cowardly as him. Ha ha!" Shui Zhantian flared up with rage upon hearing this, and he was just about to fly into a rage when he immediately retreated obediently into Anlin's arms. He trembled uncontrollably as he murmured in a low voice, "Don't panic. He's trying to goad me into attacking so he can kill me." Anlin looked at the crumbling army with a sympathetic expression before consoling them one by one. For example, he taught Tobias the correct concept of love, or pummeled the ecstatic Cassidy and Merlin with his fists, or consoled Tina, or kissed Shui Zhantian. He was like a meticulous Samaritan, consoling all of his team members to the best of his ability. Anlin suddenly felt like he had become a lot gentler. This feeling was so good. Chapter 561. All of the members were comforted by Enlin one after another, and in any case, their emotional turmoil was somewhat alleviated. Enlin stroked Xiao's soft hair and led the way as he consoled everyone. Everyone sighed with emotion. Enlin was simply too gentle at this moment, as if he was radiating the light of a mother. Even Cassidy and Merlin, who were being pummeled, were struck by this feeling. This was because even when Enlin was pummeling someone, his expression was one of great compassion and redemption. To put it in simpler terms, Enlin was bashing them with an expression that said, "I'm doing this for your own good." What a gentle person he was, ha ha ha! Merlin, look at that giant centipede. Its legs aren't symmetrical, ha ha ha! Cassidy pointed at the mutant beast in the distance and chortled with glee. Ha ha! Cassidy, that rock over there is also very hilarious. It looks a lot like you. Merlin was also very elated. He felt like this was the happiest moment of his life. There were jokes everywhere and he was constantly making people laugh. However, their laughter was extremely piercing to Tina and Tobias. One of them was feeling extremely inferior, while the other was desperately thinking about her deceased lover. What kind of experience was it to suddenly have two people laughing hysterically off to the side? In any case, Enlin could already sense the killing intent. In order to ease the tension, he turned to Cassidy and Merlin with a gentle smile. "Seeing as you two like to laugh so much, how about I tell you a joke?" Cassidy and Merlin were ecstatic to hear that there was a joke, and they immediately chortled in agreement. Enlin spoke in a slow voice. Once upon a time, there was a wolf cub. It was a vegetarian and didn't eat meat, and its parents were extremely worried about it. However, one day, its parents saw the wolf cub chasing a rabbit. They were very elated, but they were soon dumbstruck again. "Why?" Merlin asked. Enlin replied in a slow voice, "Because, after the wolf cub caught the rabbit, it said hand over the carrot, Merlin." Cassidy. Enlin continued, "A long time ago, there was a hide-and-seek association, and their president was very powerful." "How powerful?" Cassidy asked. "A few decades have passed, but their leader still hasn't been found," Enlin replied. Merlin. Cassidy. Enlin felt that the atmosphere was right. One day, a doctor told a patient that there was bad news and good news. "Which one would you like to hear first?" The patient thought about it and said that he would listen to the bad news first. The doctor said that the patient was prescribed the wrong medicine by an amnesiac doctor. The poison is too deep, and he won't live more than a week. The patient asked in despair, "What's the good news?" The doctor is confused. "What good news?" The surrounding atmosphere instantly dropped to freezing point. Gasp! Cassidy and Merlin drew a sharp intake of breath as their smiles froze on their faces. Was this a joke? Enlin called this a joke? Thus, Cassidy and Merlin's smiles became a lot more subdued. Enlin nodded with satisfaction and continued to lead the group forward. After advancing for half a day, they arrived at a region with a golden ground. This is the Golden Earth Realm. If you go to the side, you'll arrive at the Crystal Realm. There's a very good chance that there will be crystal essence crystals there. Xiao Zhe pointed in a direction as he spoke to Enlin and the others. Enlin nodded and began to walk toward the direction Xiao Zhe had pointed. He stepped onto the ground to find that it was extremely solid, as if it had been constructed from some kind of alloy. A cultivator of the spirit-nurturing stage probably wouldn't even be able to tear through this kind of ground. Boom! All of a sudden, a drastic change occurred. The ground directly in front of Enlin and the others cracked open as a golden light burst forth. A mutant beast over 1,000 feet tall with a vast aura suddenly appeared before everyone. Its body was like a gargantuan elephant, but its head consisted of 4 snake heads, each of which exuded a menacing, frosty light. Who would have thought that there would be a monster that would dare to challenge us? "Let's go," Enlin said. Tina lowered her head in silence. Shui Zhantian trembled uncontrollably in Enlin's arms, and Xiao Zhe held onto Enlin's arm tightly. Tobias had already raised his head to look up at the starry sky, while Cassidy and Merlin were chuckling like idiots. Enlin, weren't they supposed to be returned to Void stage mighty figures? Why did they become like this when it came to battle? Enlin finally understood why this mutant beast wasn't afraid of them. All of them had been dominated by their emotions, and their battle intent had been completely subdued. They were nowhere near as fearsome as they had been before entering this place, so it was no wonder that they would be targeted by a slightly more powerful mutant beast. The mutant beast's 4 snake heads looked at everyone with greed in their eyes. What a rich aura! Only the flesh and blood of such a powerful being would suit me. None of you can escape. An expression of despair appeared on Shui Zhantian's face. It's over, it's saying that we can't escape, so we're all dead for sure, Xiao Zhe's brows furrowed. There must be some kind of earth-shattering conspiracy going on here. Tina tugged on Enlin's hair with her tiny hands. Giant Enlin, what do I have to do to become as exceptional as this elephant Ba? Enlin, hiss. One of the snake heads suddenly opened its cavernous mouth before expelling a cloud of dark green poisonous gas toward everyone. This poisonous gas was extremely terrifying, and even the sturdy golden ground began to melt and corrode in the area it engulfed. Enlin immediately released his Gundams upon seeing that everyone was still standing there in a daze. The 2 Gundams unleashed their ionic deprivation protection formation to keep the dark green poisonous gas at bay. Oh? I didn't think you 2 would have some tricks up your sleeves. The elephant Ba chortled with glee as one of its snake heads opened its mouth, upon which a streak of black light pierced through the poisonous gas before crashing into the protective barrier. Boom! A fearsome explosion of energy and a sharp screeching sound reverberated through the air. The ionic deprivation protection formation began to crack open from the black streak of light. Enlin's expression shifted, and he knew that he couldn't afford to waste any more time. He looked at everyone with a gentle expression. If that's the case, then let me protect all of you. Within his sea of vital energy, lightning erupted from Enkiran's body. At the same time, his golden void lightning robe appeared on Enlin's body, from which golden light flashed and lightning snakes danced. A vast and boundless aura of extreme yang emanated from his body before sweeping through the surroundings. Enlin gripped his evil-slaying sword as wings of wind materialized on his back, and he abruptly charged out of the ionic deprivation protection formation before pouncing toward the mutant beast. The dark green poisonous gas approached Enlin before being blasted into nothingness by the golden void lightning robe. The elephant Ba mutant beast was shocked to see this. Enlin was simply too fast, and his aura was also extremely powerful. It immediately made a decision to attack Enlin with all its might. The 5 snake heads opened their mouths at the same time, and 5 extremely fearsome powers, poison mist, black light, frost, flames, and lightning, converged together before pouncing toward Enlin. Enlin gripped his evil-slaying sword as golden void lightning erupted forth, and he slashed his sword toward the elephant Ba. Golden light dazzled the world as an extremely dazzling bolt of golden void lightning sliced through the air, slicing the elephant Ba's attack in half with the power to annihilate space itself. How could this be? An expression of shock and horror appeared on the elephant Ba's face. It clearly didn't think that its full power attack would be sliced apart by a single sword strike from Enlin. The golden void lightning continued onward and struck the elephant Ba's body, slicing its gargantuan body in half. The golden void lightning also completely exploded at this moment, transforming the area within a radius of over 1,000 feet into a sea of lightning. The elephant Ba let loose an enraged roar before falling to the ground, and its body was reduced to charcoal amid the explosion of lightning. Enlin's golden robe dissipated, and he heaved a faint sigh of relief as he stowed his long sword away. The elephant Ba was only at the soul formation pinnacle stage, so he could still deal with it, but what if he encountered an even more powerful enemy? How was he supposed to defeat an enemy at the Return to Void stage? With this in mind, he turned to look at everyone who was being protected by the Gundams with a pained expression, but also a hint of tenderness. So be it. Let me shield you from the wind and rain, even if I have to give up my life. A faint sigh was heard. It was rather helpless, but it was still so gentle. Chapter 562. Unlin led the group onward, doing his best to maintain the fragile relationship between the members. He didn't show any signs of annoyance or impatience. As for what Unlin was feeling right now, even he himself didn't know. He just felt like everyone was so pitiful and deserving of love and help. Was it compassion? Sympathy? Or was it some other kind of emotion? In any case, it was far too mystical, so mystical that even he was a little lost. Wah! Giant Unlin, I'm so useless. I needed you to protect me after I saw that monster. I didn't do anything at all. It's all my fault. Tina wiped away her tears as she spoke in a self-reproachful voice. Unlin gently poked her delicate face with a comforting smile. It's all right. It's all because of this mystic realm. I've forgiven you a long time ago. Giant Unlin, you're the best. Tina felt an indescribable sense of encouragement and warmth at the sight of Unlin's radiant smile, and even with her low self-esteem, she felt an indescribable sense of encouragement and warmth. After passing through the Golden Land, they were greeted by the sight of a mountain range constructed from crystals of all different colors. Some of the crystals glowed with a peculiar light, which intertwined with the stars in the sky, giving this place a sense of beauty and beauty. As Unlin walked along this crystalline mountain range, a cool sensation washed over his entire body. Rich vital energy circulated in the air, imbued with a hint of frost. They continued onward, sensing for any special energy fluctuations or strange places along the way. An earth-shattering roar broke the silence of the environment. Unlin rose into the air atop his brick and looked down into the distance, where a blue light was flashing like the stars in the sky. There's a battle going on? Unlin was a little surprised. If there was a battle going on, then it could be a conflict of interest. He was definitely going to join in on the fun. Unlin didn't hesitate any longer as he flew toward the location of the battle on his brick. As they drew closer and closer, he finally got a clear view of the battle taking place. There was a monster with the head of a dragon and the body of a human. There was a golden wheel on its back, and its entire body was covered in white scales. It had 4 arms, and it was chasing after 3 snow maidens with 4 long swords in its hands. One of the snow maidens was in a miserable state. She had tears streaming down her face, and it was clear that she had been beaten to tears. Unlin didn't have a good impression of the snow maidens to begin with, and he was extremely pleased to see them being bullied by a monster. Xiao's expression changed slightly when he saw the monster, and he said, "That dragon-headed monster is called the Dragon Shang. It's a mutated species of the dragon clan. They are violent in nature, and their strength and talent are comparable to that of the pure-blood dragon clan. In terms of cultivation speed, they are even stronger than the pure-blood dragon clan." Unlin was surprised. "I didn't expect it to be a highly intelligent life form. I thought it was some kind of crystal source boss." Xiao Zhe scratched his head. "It's true that the Long Shang likes to collect realm essence crystals. Look over there. Aren't there a dozen or so realm essence crystals?" He pointed a finger in a certain direction, and everyone looked in that direction. Only then did they discover that there were indeed a dozen or so realm essence crystals on the ground. One was gold, one was red, 3 were blue, and the rest were all green. They were enshrouded by a peculiar barrier of light, which isolated any energy fluctuations. The Long Shang and the Snow Maidens are fighting. Now is the time for us to reap the benefits. Let's go. Unlin's eyes lit up as he issued a command. And then an enigmatic silence ensued. Xiaozi said with a grave expression, "Master, I feel like there's something fishy going on here. I'm afraid there's a life-and-death situation waiting for us." Let's wait and see. Wait for what? Let's run. The death of the heavens is about to descend. Shui Zhantian trembled as he spoke. Unlin, whoever obtains all the realm essence crystals for me will be rewarded with 2 milliliters of holy blood, Unlin suddenly said. Cassidy, Merlin, and Tobias instantly shuddered as a scorching desire surged through their bodies. Tobias withdrew his gaze from the countless stars in the sky. I'm sorry, Ruth. I'll be leaving for a while. I'll come back to see you after I obtain the holy blood. Cassidy and Merlin no longer danced around. Instead, they materialized their own weapons and pounced toward the realm essence crystals without a word. At the same time, the 3 snow maidens battling the Long Shang also saw Unlin and the others. Su Jingxiang's brows furrowed slightly. 9 frosty snow needles appeared in her hand, which she stabbed toward the Long Shang. The needles formed an extremely cold spell formation that froze the space within a radius of 10,000 feet, thereby delaying the Long Shang's advance. She turned around and said in a panicked voice, Unlin and the others are here. Let's retreat. Otherwise, we won't be able to escape. Tears streamed down Rogu's face. What a terrifying aura! Are those supreme beings his subordinates? It looks like I've underestimated him. However, I can't accept that the realm essence crystals are snatched away just like that. Why should we run? CK them up. We're betting on the honor of the holy glacial lands. Worst comes to worst, we'll just die. Yan Hua roared with rage. Su Jingxiang. What does this have to do with the honor of the holy glacial lands? However, the result of the vote was 2-1. The Snow Maidens chose to continue battling. If you fail to obtain the realm essence crystals, I hope that you can use mystic techniques to escape this place immediately, Su Jingxiang said to the 2 palace leaders beside her as she desperately tried to delay the Long Shang with her extremely cold spell formation. Rogu and Yan Hua transformed into 2 streaks of blue light as they ferociously charged toward the nearby realm essence crystals. At the same time, 3 streaks of crimson light charged toward the realm essence crystals from another direction. CK off. The realm essence crystals are ours. Yanhua roared in rage. Her hands danced through the air, and an extremely fearsome blizzard instantly materialized within a radius of 5 kilometers. The wind was as sharp as blades, and the snowflakes were as sharp as swords. The surrounding space was instantly frozen solid. The 3 blood tribe cultivators were caught in the blizzard, and their movements faltered slightly. Each and every snowflake seemed to possess the power to slice through space. These snowflakes were imbued with the might of a return to void stage cultivator, and they slashed toward the 3 of them viciously. Cassidy swiped a slender finger in front of her, and a crimson sword projection tore through the void, splitting heaven and earth apart. Ha ha! You overestimate yourself. You think you can stop me with this kind of spell technique? I'm going to die of laughter. Cassidy was a return-to-void intermediate stage mighty figure who specialized in killing, while Yan Hua was only at the pinnacle of the return-to-void initial stage. However, just because one was powerful didn't mean that they would be able to obtain the item they wanted. For example, Rogu had transformed into a sword as she flashed through the void. A blue streak of light flashed, and she arrived before the realm essence crystals. Then, she sliced through the peculiar light barrier. So what if you have the advantage in numbers? Nothing is impossible on this ever-changing battlefield. For example, the realm essence crystals are mine now. Rogu laughed and cried at the same time. At the same time, she extended her slender, white hands and made a grabbing motion toward the realm essence crystals. A dozen or so realm essence crystals flew into the air. Chapter 563. Just as the realm essence crystal's protective barrier was broken by Rogu, the Long Shang's body suddenly trembled. The golden wheel suddenly enlarged and began to spin rapidly. Boundless golden light filled the entire space, and a large number of dragon symbols surged out from the wheel before attaching themselves to the Long Shang's body. Dragon patterns began to appear on his white skin, which slowly turned golden. At the same time, his aura began to skyrocket. The Snow Maidens are done for. The Long Shang knows that the realm essence crystals have been stolen, so he's going to burn his blood. Xiaozi looked at the 3 Snow Maidens with a pitiful expression. Rogu stored the realm essence crystals into her storage ring and immediately planned to escape. Ha ha! Don't even think about escaping. Merlin let loose an enraged roar, and the battle souls within the flag surged forth before flying into many different directions to form a monstrous blood slaughter formation. Haha, how dare you steal my realm essence crystals? Leave your lives here. Cassidy chanted a spell, and a crimson sword materialized in the air. A vast power was imbued on the blade of the sword, and it was incomparably sharp and filled with killing intent. Tobias didn't say anything, but his fists had already descended from the sky. Before his fists even landed, the terrifying force of his fists had already caused the ground within a radius of 1,000 meters to cave in. Rogu transformed into a blue sword again, and her clear voice reverberated throughout heaven and earth. Hee, do you still not understand the situation? No one can surpass me in terms of speed. Is that so? A low, hoarse voice suddenly sounded nearby. It was a figure that was completely golden, and the wheel behind him was as brilliant as the sun. The blue sword pierced through the air without hesitation, but the golden figure's fists were even faster. Boom! Golden energy exploded, and a sphere of light expanded in all directions, pulverizing the ground within a radius of 5 kilometers. Rogu's sword shattered, and she transformed back into her human form. She coughed up blood as she tumbled to the ground. Right at this moment, the attacks of the 3 blood tribe cultivators also landed. Palace leader Rogu. Yanhua dashed in front of Rogu. Blood danced around her wrist, forming a strange blue blood sphere that enveloped the 2 of them. Boom, boom, boom. The blood slaughter formation transformed heaven and earth into a slaughterhouse. Countless crimson energy surged toward the Snow Maidens and the Long Shang. The crimson flying sword tore through heaven and earth as it slashed toward the blue blood sphere. At this moment, the fist also landed, enveloping the Long Shang and the Snow Maidens. The world turned blood-red, swallowing up all the scenes. The starry sky collapsed, and all things were destroyed. A terrifying shockwave of energy swept out for over 10 kilometers. Xiao Zhe set up a barrier around Enlin, Tina, and Shui Zhantian, thereby preventing the shockwaves from sweeping through them. Rogu Yanhua. Su Jingxiang stood on the sunken ground and yelled their names anxiously. Her white dress was stained with blood, her clothes and hair were extremely messy, and there was a shocking bloody hole in her abdomen. Formation and Dynasty Dragon Spirit Crystals and Hang. The destructive energy gradually dissipated, and the blue blood sphere barrier had already been shattered. The 2 silver-haired Snow Maidens were half kneeling in the massive crater, riddled with wounds. Even though they had managed to evade a concentrated attack, it was clear that they were in dire straits. The formation, and crystals, Su the Long Shang of Long Dragon, of the Of Crystals started. Dragon. By time. By the goo. Heh. Looks like those 2 Snow Maidens are going to die. A cold smile appeared on Xiao Zhe's face. Cassidy, Tobias, and Merlin. Can the 3 of them handle the Long Shang? Enlin looked at the powerful Long Shang with concern. Don't worry. The Long Shang won't be able to last long. The life force of the blood tribe is so strong. The Long Shang is no match for it in a battle of attrition. I'm just worried that there might be a conspiracy behind this. Xiao Zhe hugged Enlin's arm tightly as he said this. Enlin, how tiring would it be to live a life full of conspiracy theories and suspicions with this in mind? Enlin stroked Xiao Zhe's hair with a compassionate expression. The Long Shang glared at the 2 Snow Maidens in front of it. It opened its palms and 4 swords appeared in its hands. A look of remorse finally appeared on Yanhua's face. Rogu's eyes were red, and she pursed her lips tightly. It was as if she was trying to stop herself from crying again. She removed her storage ring and handed it to Yan Hua. "My arrogance has implicated the two of you," she said softly. "I'll risk my life to delay them. You and Su Jingxiang, hurry up and escape. Don't be like this. We have to leave together." Yan Hua pulled Gu to her feet violently and stood up. Gu smiled sadly, and a boundless blue light suddenly burst forth from her eyes. "No!" Yan Hua screamed at the top of her lungs. Lin silently wiped the corners of his eyes upon seeing this. What a touching scene! Why have they become like this? They should be living happily under the stars. Xiao Zhe stared at Lin in astonishment. Tina's green eyes also widened in shock. "Master, didn't you say that the Snow Maidens and humans are enemies? Are you pitying the Snow Maidens?" Xiao Zhe blinked in astonishment. Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. "But they are also beautiful beings. Everyone lives in this world, and everyone has the right to pursue their own happiness. Setting aside the difference in power, everyone is just a beautiful flower among the masses. But now, the flower is about to wither." "Tina! Giant Lin is such a compassionate person." Xiao Zhe chuckled. "Master, you want to show compassion for the fairer sex? You can ask the Blood Tribe to help." Lin suddenly came to his senses, and he yelled at the Blood Tribe, "You guys! Hurry up and help the Snow Maidens! Don't let them die!" His voice reverberated through the air, and Cassidy, Merlin, and the others all faltered upon hearing this. Gu, who was about to unleash her mystic technique, also faltered upon hearing this, and an incredulous expression appeared on her face. Lin continued to yell, "Every race that pursues beauty has the right to live happily in this world, and everyone is equal. Hurry up and protect her." Cassidy, Merlin, Tobias, whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the Long Shang had already unleashed a series of golden sword strikes with its 4 longswords, each of which was imbued with terrifying might. Vast and mighty dragon might surged forth, and a series of pitch-black trenches were carved into the crystalline ground. Gu was a powerful being at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. Even after unleashing her mystic technique, she was still no match for the Long Shang. As she stumbled back in retreat, tears flowed from her eyes. "Hurry up and run!" Yan Hua gritted her teeth, and was just about to turn and flee when the Long Shang unleashed an extremely terrifying sword strike toward her. The sword projection was extremely fast, and its might was comparable to a full power strike from a cultivator at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. With her severely wounded body, there was no way she could defend herself against this sword strike. Was this the end? Yan Hua's petite body appeared extremely tiny and insignificant in the face of the golden sword projection. It was as if she were duckweed on a turbulent ocean, extremely frail and fragile. However, right at this moment, a tall and slender woman in a flowing black robe appeared before her. She slashed out a crimson sword projection with all her might. Golden and crimson energies intertwined, lighting up the entire night sky. Cassidy's golden hair billowed in the wind, and a hint of exasperation appeared on her exquisitely beautiful face. "Sigh, I'd be crazy if I agreed to such an unreasonable request from the holy leader." Yan Hua's beautiful face was filled with astonishment. Never would she have thought that she would actually be saved by the Blood Tribe. Never would she have thought that she would be saved by that Lin. This seemed to be the second time. Chapter 564. Cassidy's attack astonished the Snow Maidens once again. Even the Long Shang faltered slightly. Although the Long Shang was violent, it didn't mean that it lacked intelligence. Upon seeing that the Blood Tribe was siding with the Snow Maidens, it charged toward Yan Hua without any hesitation and unleashed another ferocious attack. Gu had already handed the storage ring to Yan Hua, so its primary target was naturally Yan Hua. However, Gu and Cassidy did their best to delay the Long Shang. Merlin also arrived with a sea of souls and joined the battle. Golden sword intent swept through heaven and earth. Boundless snow and crimson light filled the air as earth-shattering booms erupted. The battle between the two sides had reached its climax. If it weren't for the fact that Yen Hua was severely injured, she would have joined the battle as well. She still remembered what Ro Gu had told her, and she steeled her heart to flee into the distance. However, a black-robed figure blocked her path. This was a muscular man with a buzz cut. His crimson eyes glowed with a dangerous light. The holy leader only said that she would help you and not let you die here. She didn't say that you could leave. The person blocking Yenhua was none other than the Return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figure, Tobias. Yenhua faltered slightly. Then, she turned to look at Enlin with a complex expression. What do you want? Another beautiful snow maiden with flowing silver hair also made her way over to Yenhua's side. She stood beside Yenhua and appraised Tobias with a cautious expression. She was none other than Su Jingxiang, who had been severely injured during her battle with the Long Shang. Tobias glanced at Yenhua and Su Jingxiang with a disdainful expression. With his power at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage, dealing with these two severely injured snow maidens was a piece of cake. What do we want? You'll have to ask the holy leader. Tobias smiled. At this moment, Enlin was already flying toward the two snow maidens. Upon hearing this, Xiao Zhe immediately became excited. What do we want? Of course we want you to join Master Enlin's harem. The two snow maidens shuddered slightly, and they turned to look at Enlin in shock and horror. Enlin immediately wanted to slap Xiao Zhe in the face upon hearing this. Then, he felt that Xiaozi seemed to be a little pitiful and suddenly felt pity for him. He slowly lowered his raised hand and said, "Don't do it again. Don't talk nonsense. Master, isn't it normal for someone of your status to have a few beautiful women in your harem? Look at those two snow maidens, TSK. They're really stunning beauties. It would be a waste not to take them in." Xiao Zhe felt like this was the only reason why Enlin wanted to save the snow maidens from the opposing forces. Men. He understood. When Su Jingxiang heard this, her face paled, and she tightened her grip on her dress, which was a little tattered, revealing her fair skin. Yenhua, on the other hand, exploded. Bah! Dream on. Even if I die, I won't let you touch even a finger. Enlin looked at Xiao Zhe and the two snow maidens with a troubled expression, and he gave up on trying to explain himself. Xiao's idea was absurd, but how could his own ideas not be difficult to understand? They were clearly enemies, but he felt that these snow maidens were quite pitiful. Out of some kind of pity, he actually wanted to save them. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to save you, Enlin said seriously. There was a hint of pity in his clear eyes as he looked at the snow maidens. Yenhua and Su Jingxiang were momentarily dazed when they saw Enlin's expression. You just want to save us? Why? Su Jingxiang asked softly. Enlin thought for a moment, and a warm smile suddenly appeared on his handsome face. I don't know. I just don't want you to die here. I can't bear to see you die here. Can't bear to see you die. Yenhua's mouth gaped open as she stared at Enlin in a daze. Su Jingxiang's thoughts raced through her mind, and a blush appeared on her frosty face. Xiao's eyes lit up and he sighed in his heart. Master is indeed master. His flirting skills are impeccable. I'm far from his level. The Long Shang was held back by two Blood Tribe cultivators and a Snow Maiden who was using a mystic technique. It couldn't break through their defenses. Especially the Blood Tribe cultivators. It had sliced Merlin in half with a single sword strike, yet it was still able to regenerate. Even a normal person wouldn't be able to defeat such a freakish life force. Remember this. I'll definitely settle this score with you in the future. A hoarse and ruthless voice sounded from the Long Shang's mouth. It glanced at the Snow Maidens, Enlin, and the others before quickly retreating into the distance. In terms of individual combat prowess, the Long Shang was more powerful than anyone present. However, two fists were no match for four hands. Right now, it could only sullenly escape before the mystic technique of burning its blood disappeared. Seeing that the Long Shang had already escaped, Ro Gu's body swayed slightly. She couldn't hold on any longer, and she half knelt on the ground as she spat out a large mouthful of blood. Palace leader Ro Gu. Yan Hua and Su Jingxiang hurriedly flew to Ro Gu's side and used a spell technique to treat her injuries. Why did you guys come back? Hurry up and run. Otherwise, we'll all fall into Enlin's hands. Ro Gu furrowed her brows and pushed the two people in front of her away. Then, tears began to flow from her eyes again. Seeing Ro Gu's tear-stained face, Su Jingxiang's expression was one of worry. Meanwhile, Yan Hua's expression was one of determination. She held on to Ro Gu's hand and looked up at Enlin. Tell me, what do you want? What do I want? Enlin's brows furrowed again upon hearing this. Cassidy, Merlin, and Tobias stood in 3 different directions, subtly sealing off the Snow Maiden's escape route. Right now, the difference in power between the two sides was extremely obvious. It could be said that Enlin had the final say. He could decide the life and death of the 3 return to Void Stage Snow Maidens with a single word. Was he going to let the Snow Maidens leave just like that? Of course not. His heart wouldn't allow it, however. He couldn't bear to kill them on the spot. The Snow Maidens were so pitiful. Why would he kill them? The 3 Snow Maidens heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing Enlin's contemplative expression. After all, the fact that he was contemplating meant that he really cared about them and wouldn't immediately decide to kill them. How about this? Leave your storage rings behind and leave. Enlin finally made up his mind after a moment of thought. He couldn't kill the Snow Maidens, so it wasn't a bad idea to make them go bankrupt. That's all? Yan Hua asked hesitantly. That's right, Master. That's all? You're really not going to take them? Xiao Zhe stared at Enlin with shock on his face. Tears streamed down Ro Gu's face. All right, I agree to your request. I hope you can keep your word, Enlin. They could earn more money if they ran out of money, but they would really lose everything if they lost their lives. The 3 Snow Maidens handed over their storage rings to Enlin without much hesitation. Only then did the 3 Blood Tribe cultivators who had received instructions from Enlin all step aside. Yan Hua soared into the sky atop a huge ice flower and fled into the distance with Su Jingxiang and Ro Gu. Su Jingxiang turned to look at Enlin with a profound gaze, only to discover that there wasn't much regret on his face. He was also calmly looking on as they disappeared into the distance. Su Jingxiang turned back to look at Enlin. Under the influence of the emotional explosion, an indescribable emotion welled up in her heart. After fleeing for a long time, the 3 Snow Maidens finally relaxed after discovering that Enlin and the others weren't chasing after them. Then, they looked at each other with peculiar expressions on their faces. He really let us go. Yan Hua was still in a daze. Yes, we were let go by our enemies. Ro Gu nodded with a heavy expression. Tears began to well up in her eyes again. She had heard many stories about Enlin, but this was the first time she had come into contact with him. Who would have thought that he would be able to bring her so much shock and disbelief? Humph. He must have been affected by the explosion of emotions. That's why he treated us like this. Yan Hua wanted to say a few more words in order to calm herself down. Besides, he stole all of our treasures, so he's a bandit. The other 2 Snow Maidens didn't respond. One of them continued to cry while the other stared up at the stars. No one knew what they were thinking. After a while, Su Jingxiang asked, "What do we do next?" "Recover from our injuries, then continue to search for fragments of the realm core." Ro Gu had never given up on the idea of carrying out this mission. They could no longer afford to fail again. Hey, there's a crystal mountain over there. Let's go there and recover. All right. Chapter 565. Enlin held the 3 translucent, snowy white storage rings as a sense of melancholy welled up in his heart. Tobias, Cassidy, and Merlin each received 5 milliliters of holy blood as a reward. After all, they had killed 3 Return to Void stage mighty figures in this battle. After absorbing Enlin's blood, the 3 Blood Tribe cultivators lay down on Enlin's black brick in contentment. Enlin paused for a moment before refining the 3 Snow Maidens' storage rings and tabulating their loot. He was well aware of the pitiful wealth of the Snow Maidens, so he didn't have high expectations. However, it was exactly because of this that he was pleasantly surprised by the loot in the storage rings. Including the Realm Essence crystals that they had obtained recently, there were a total of 8 Golden Realm Essence crystals, 18 Red Realm Essence crystals, 25 Blue Realm Essence crystals, 10 Green Realm Essence crystals, and 51 White Realm Essence crystals. Aside from that, there were also 1,300,000 Spirit Stones, 20 Spirit Tools, and over 30 Spirit Pills and Spirit Fruit. There were also 3 8th-grade Immortal Fruits, the Red Ice Soul Immortal Fruit, which could strengthen one's soul and allow one to observe the power of ice. There was also an intermediate-rank Immortal Tool, the Dancing Heavenly Sun Sword, which was forged from the Tao Enlightenment Stone of the primordial mythological beast, the Golden Crow. It was an immortal tool that could reverse yin and yang and allow one to observe immortality. Enlin's heart throbbed with sympathy at the sight of this immortal sword. This was the weapon used by the Snow Maidens of Ro-Gu. If she lost this weapon, would she be in danger due to the drastic decrease in her power? If Ro-Gu were to die, then even though he wasn't the one who killed her, she would still die because of him. Enlin stowed away the treasures with a gloomy expression before leading everyone on their journey again. It could be said that his team could do as they pleased in the Void Star section now. There were 3 Return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figures, a Return to Void stage fairy, a black dragon that was at least as powerful as 3 Return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figures, the most adorable Shuejantian, and the most handsome Enlin. This was an invincible team. Even Enlin couldn't help but sigh with emotion. His team had become so powerful in the blink of an eye. If it was in the past, he would never have imagined such a scene. He had already collected 81 Golden Realm Essence crystals, which was close to completion. His personal wealth had also reached an extremely terrifying level, and he had caused close to 10 Return to Void stage mighty figures to go bankrupt. This was a great achievement that would make anyone envious. With so many underlings around, Enlin suddenly thought of the issue of Q numbers, and he said to Shuejantian, "There are still 4 beast pets in front of you, so you're going to be little 5 from now on, understand?" Shuejantian was extremely cowardly at this moment, and he nodded his head in agreement without asking why. Tina asked in a quiet voice, "Giant Enlin, what rank do I rank in the top 10? Enlin faltered slightly upon hearing this. "Little Na, this is between my pet beast and me. You're not my pet beast yet." "Oh." Tina nodded with a complex expression. "As for the servants, Cassidy is second, and Merlin is third." Enlin continued. Cassidy pursed her lips with displeasure upon hearing that she was only second. "I clearly followed you first, holy leader." A nonchalant smile appeared on Merlin's face. "So be it. It's not a bad idea to have the most powerful Tobias rank first." Tobias joined his hands in a pleased salute. "It's just a title, so there's no need to take it to heart." "Tobias is fourth," Enlin continued. "I forgot to mention that there's a wolf servant who joined before you, so he's the number 1. "Tobias." Cassidy burst into laughter. "Ahem, little brother Tobias. It's just a title, so there's no need to take it to heart." "Ha ha ha ha." Merlin actually didn't want to laugh, but he still couldn't help but burst into laughter. Tobias looked up at a certain star in the sky with a dejected expression. "Lucy, in this world, only you can give me a hint of warmth. Why did you leave me?" Tears streamed down Tobias' face again as he spoke. Xiao Zhe tugged on Enlin's sleeve with an excited expression. "Master, what about me? What rank do I rank among your disciples?" "You." Enlin looked into Xiao Zhe's pure and innocent eyes, and he was struck by the illusion that Xiao Zhe was an adorable child. He hurriedly shook his head to rid himself of this feeling before replying with a smile, "You're my first disciple, so you rank first." Boom! Xiao Zhe was completely dumbstruck. His face was filled with astonishment and astonishment. He was the first. The immense happiness that washed over him made him feel a little dizzy. "I'm the top disciple. No. I'm the only disciple." Xiao Zhe murmured to himself as a silly smile appeared on his face. What did this entail? This entailed that he was Master's only disciple. Most of the resources would be given to him. Mantras, top-notch dragon tribe cultivation methods, experience, Tao intent. He would have everything. Xiao Zhe could already envision himself reaching the pinnacle of his life. The pity in Enlin's eyes became even more pronounced upon seeing Xiao Zhe's elation. "Silly child, it's too early for you to be celebrating." Tina sat on Enlin's shoulder with her head slightly bowed. Her eyes were dim, and her long, slender legs swayed slightly beneath her white tunic dress as her hands gripped tightly onto Enlin's shirt. Enlin seemed to have sensed the movement of her tiny hands on his arm, and he turned to Tina with a gentle voice. "What is it, little Na?" "Nothing." The 20-centimeter-tall elf shook his head. Moments later, a crisp, pleasant voice sounded beside his ear again. "Giant Enlin, you said we only have a month in the ancient Tai Chu realm, so how many days do we have left?" 5 or 6 days. Enlin thought about the time before replying. "Then how are you going to get back?" Tina asked. "I have a spatial teleportation talisman that can teleport me back directly," Enlin replied. "Tina, what about Shui Zhantian? What about him?" Enlin replied with a smile. "He has established a beast pet contract with me, so as long as I hold him in my arms, the teleportation talisman will detect his presence and teleport me away with him." Xiao Zhe raised his hands into the air with a smile. "Me too. I haven't come into contact with the power of the Tao integration stage, so I can't travel between the two realms. However, I can use my connection with Master to escape from this place." Tina lowered her head again. Then, "Giant Enlin, what do you think of me?" Enlin held Tina's slender waist with his thumb and index finger before placing her onto the palm of his left hand. Tina raised her head, and Enlin's earnest and sincere expression was reflected in her emerald eyes. Enlin replied with a smile, "Tina is very good. I've told you, you're very beautiful, and you're also very powerful. I know my next request is going to be a little abrupt, but I still want to ask you to leave this place with me. Let's go to the Tai Chu continent together. I'll take you to see beautiful sceneries and see a wider world. You can become my beast pet or my disciple, but that's just a way for you to leave this place. I'll treat you like my best friend, and I'll treat you with sincerity." Tina's expression faltered upon hearing this. "So you knew what I was going to say, silly girl, didn't we agree on this from the very beginning? The world is so big, and I promised to take you to see it. This promise is valid forever." Enlin spoke in a gentle voice. Tears welled up in Tina's eyes upon hearing this, and she couldn't help but burst into tears. "Giant Enlin, you're such a good person, and an honest man who keeps his word," Tina praised as she wiped away her tears. Enlin could only rub the little fairy's head with a gentle expression on his face after receiving both the good guy and the honest guy cards at the same time. Moments later, the little fairy stopped crying. "Giant Enlin, I've decided. I want to become your beast pet." Enlin was a little surprised. He had thought that Tina would choose to become his disciple. After all, as long as she had a close connection with him, the spatial teleportation talisman would be able to teleport anyone she came into contact with. He nodded without any hesitation. "All right, I'll do it." Thus, an incantation seal was cast, and a drop of blood essence created a connection between the two of them. Tina officially joined Enlin's beast pet team. "Little Tian, from now on, Little Na will be number 5, and you'll be number 6, do you understand?" Enlin asked. He had already considered Tina to be one of his own, so he decided to change the order. Shui Zhantian's body trembled slightly in shock and horror, but he didn't say anything before nodding in agreement. A sweet smile appeared on little Na's face as she flapped her golden wings and flew a circle around Enlin. She even planted a gentle kiss on the side of Enlin's face in an adorable and obedient manner. Her feelings of inferiority that had erupted because of the rules were now diluted by an emotion called joy and yearning. Why didn't she choose to become his disciple? Because Xiao Zhe wasn't easy to bully, and Shui Zhantian was easy to bully. Enlin's heart melted at the sight of such an adorable little fairy, and he couldn't help but yearn to bring his new beast pet back to meet Dabai and the others. It would definitely be very interesting,